Chapter 6:21. The latent shadow puppet formation technique was a formation technique that was specially used to control objects. It could allow the objects covered by the formation to move according to the requirements. Muyu was no stranger to this formation technique. Back when Muyu had just arrived at the Array faction to challenge the 8 gates, when he tried the third hexagram, there were scattered stars in the third hexagram. Muyu used his thoughts to control the stars, to form different shapes, to battle with the other party stars. This formation technique was executed based on the latent shadow puppet formation technique. Muyu used the latent shadow puppet formation technique on the bones and could easily control the bones to form the shape he wanted. The bones floating in midair were guided by thin formation patterns, just like the leads of a puppet. The only difference was that these formation patterns were extremely orderly. Under Muyu's control, they wouldn't tangle together. The bones that filled the sky started to assemble in an orderly manner according to little Shuai's expectations. Very quickly, they formed a 5-meter-tall bone battle soldier. This bone battle soldier was rather strange. Its head was rather small and was obviously not symmetrical with its body. Its body was also cylindrical, as if a thick tree trunk had grown hands and feet. It looked very strange. When Muyu's bone battle soldier appeared, all the souls, including Hellion Kong, were stunned. Wasn't this F*King too ugly? Hellion Kong floated to Muyu's side and sized up the 5-meter-tall bone battle soldier. He said with a face full of suspicion, "Muyu, don't tell me that you guys planned for so long just to create such an ugly bone battle soldier." Yes, is there anything wrong? Muyu didn't care about other people's opinions at all. Hellion Kong couldn't bear to attack Muyu's self-confidence, but he still kindly reminded him, "Normal bone battle soldiers are about 10 meters tall. Yours is only 5 meters tall. In front of others, it's like a dwarf. Do you want to consider making it taller? It's okay, we have plenty of bones. Short ones are more flexible. I think a height of 5 meters is enough." Muyu didn't really care. What was important wasn't the height, but the practicality. That's true, but come and take a look at the demon race's bone battle soldiers. Hellion Kong pointed helplessly at the demon race's bone battle soldiers in the distance. The skeleton warriors that the other party had sent out today were at least 15 meters tall and had a pair of gigantic bone wings. At the same time, they also had 2 gigantic sharp bone tails on their backs. The sharp claws on their palms were 1 meter long. Their terrifying tearing ability was definitely no joke. Looking at Muyu's pitiful and small figure, he felt that he would be finished off with just 1 claw. The demon race's bone warriors were powerful and domineering, while Muyu's bone warriors were shabby. The difference was like heaven and earth. The skeletons of the demon race are relatively large, so their bone warriors are mostly very tall. In order to be able to fight against them, we have to make our skeletons similar to theirs, Hellion Kong explained. Muyu smiled and said, "Senior, you've already lent me your leg bone, so don't worry. I won't disappoint you." Hellion Kong hesitated for a moment, then said helplessly, "All right then, you can take the first round as experiencing the power of the demon race's bone battle soldiers. It's okay if you lose. However, you have to be careful. As the overall commander, you also have to be on the battlefield. Also, let me remind you that your cultivation is not high enough, so you can't defeat the demon race's bone battle soldiers with your spiritual power. This is because the skeletons of the demon race's bone battle soldiers are at least at the body integration stage, so you can only rely on our soul tools to fight against them." Muyu already knew this. If he could defeat the bone battle soldiers directly, he wouldn't need to rely on the soul tools of his soul tools to fight. He could just take out the Mu Ling and wave a few times. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Assembling such an ugly bone battle soldier. Are you here to be funny? Gue Yezi said coldly from the side. "I don't see you laughing." Muyu shrugged. "That's because this isn't a laughing matter. This is a battle between the human race and the demon race's territory, and you sent out such a rotten bone battle soldier?" Gue Yezi's face was full of sarcasm. Although Hellion Kong didn't think highly of Muyu, he still spoke up to defend him. "Gue Yezi, we've already placed our bets. What kind of bone battle soldier Muyu uses has nothing to do with you, right?" Gue Yezi glanced coldly at Hellion Kong, a mocking smile appearing on his face. "It looks like you can't wait to give me your soul tool." "I don't think so." Muyu couldn't be bothered to say anything more to Gue Yezi, and directly walked toward the demarcation line. There was a circular battlefield at the border of the demarcation line. This battlefield was about 100 meters in diameter, and it was enough for the bone battle soldiers to show off their strength. The battlefield spanned across the demarcation line, and it was also within the demarcation line's range of power. Once one entered, they would only be able to bring their remains out if they lost. Muyu had just walked onto the battlefield with the bone battle soldier when he was greeted with a wave of roaring laughter from the demonic beasts. To be honest, the 5-meter-tall bone battle soldier wasn't considered short. However, in front of the demonic beast's 15-meter-tall bone battle soldier, it indeed looked like a little kid. Especially with its round body, it looked especially comical, as if it would be turned to mush with a single step. I didn't think that I would actually see a living person after several thousand years. How rare. However, is a junior like you planning to amuse us the moment you arrive? Ha! A demonic beast with large bull horns on his head looked down at Muyu in the air with an overbearing air. This guy was known as the Bull Demon King, and he was one of the commanders of the demonic beast bone battle soldiers. The demonic beast's degree of control over their bone battle soldiers was far greater than that of the human race. However, in the past, when the human race fought, the bone battle soldiers that they sent out were at least relatively powerful in terms of aura. However, when he saw this tiny thing today, he really felt that it was extremely laughable. "It's too tall, too clumsy." Muyu stroked his bone battle soldier, his expression calm and unhurried. "Kid, I'll properly teach you how to use the bone battle soldier today." The Bull Demon King laughed loudly as he floated back into the bone battle soldier's skull. Muyu patted his bone battle soldier, and the bone battle soldier suddenly started to move. All the bones surged and formed a chair. Muyu leisurely jumped onto it. At this moment, Little Commander was sitting in the pile of bones above him. "Let's properly teach this stupid bull a lesson." Little Commander was full of fighting spirit. He didn't see this battle as a battle of honor or territory at all. He was purely playing around. Muyu smiled slightly, and a trace of ridicule appeared in his eyes. Those who underestimated him would usually end up in a miserable state. The bone battle soldier of the demonic beasts blotted out the sky. A pair of huge bone wings flapped in the air. Although these bone wings didn't seem to be able to fly, they looked much more handsome. Looking at Muyu's skinny and weak bone battle soldier, it was simply unbearable to look at. "Kid, you'd better obediently accept your death." The Bull Demon King laughed maniacally. The sharp bone tail behind him was like a flexible whip. With a boom in the air, it directly attacked Muyu's dwarf. Hellion Kong looked at the Bull Demon King's insufferably arrogant bone tail and sighed in his heart. He knew that with Muyu's ability, he probably wouldn't be able to withstand this whip. Not only him, but all the human spirits shook their heads helplessly. They looked at Hellion Kong with resentment. Clearly, Hellion Kong had chosen to blindly believe in Muyu. He had completely handed over the 1-meter territory of the human race directly. The human spirits covered their faces and sighed. This battle was completely a gift of warmth. Gue Yezi's lips curled into a mocking smile. If he could obtain Hellion Kong's soul tool, it wouldn't be a big deal even if the human race lost 3 battles. Just when everyone thought that Muyu would be finished off by the bone battle soldier of the demonic beasts, Muyu's bone battle soldier moved at this moment. Moreover, the way it moved was very strange, beyond everyone's imagination. Muyu's bone battle soldier actually extended a pair of wings from its body. That's right, it was just a pair of simple bone wings. It was completely not as domineering as the demonic beasts. However, what everyone didn't expect was that the bone wings were actually filled with array patterns. It was precisely these array patterns that allowed the wings to create buoyancy with the air, allowing it to directly fly. The bone wings on the back of Muyu's bone battle soldier flapped nimbly, carrying the bone battle soldier into the sky. Its nimble body tapped on the demonic beast bone battle soldier's tailbone, and had already circled behind the demonic beast bone battle soldier. Suddenly, Powerful array patterns flashed in its hands again. A terrifying force traveled from the bone battle soldier's arm, ruthlessly smashing into the opponent's tail. Kacha! There was a loud sound as Mu Yu's bone battle soldier tore off the demonic beast bone battle soldier's tail. Both bone battle soldiers were made up of powerful soul armaments, so this was no longer a competition of Mu Yu's cultivation. Instead, it was a competition of agility and strength. Furthermore, Mu Yu's bone battle soldier's timing was very precise. The demonic beast bone battle soldier seemed to be quite strong, but the demonic beast bone battle soldier's third tailbone was actually its fatal weakness. Big stupid cow dot, Xiao Shuai shouted excitedly. He was actually the one controlling the bone battle soldier, and Mu Yu was only there to help him coordinate the array patterns. Even the demonic beast bone battle soldier's weakness was discovered by Xiao Shuai himself. How is this possible? Everyone was stunned. None of them thought that Mu Yu's bone battle soldier would be as nimble as a loach. In a single move, it tore off the demonic beast's bone battle soldier's tail. Damn! It seems that I've underestimated you. How dare you tear off the tail of my divine oxbone battle soldier? You're courting death. The bull demon king angrily tried to snatch the tail back, but Xiao Shuai had already crushed the demonic beast bone battle soldier's soul armament. Although the demonic beast bone battle soldier could only be broken by a body integration stage cultivator, the bones of Mu Yu's bone battle soldier were also very tough. They were not weaker than the demonic beast bone battle soldier. Xiao Shuai knew exactly where to attack and break the demonic beast bone battle soldier. Divine oxbone battle soldier? Let me tell you, my bone battle soldier is called Transformer. Xiao Shuai laughed loudly. When the divine oxbone battle soldier's sharp claws came down, Transformer had already jumped far away. At the same time, all the bones in its body surged again, and in the blink of an eye, it had turned into Xiao Shuai's appearance. Mu Yu was a little embarrassed. At first, he refused to let the bone battle soldier turn into Xiao Shuai's appearance, but Xiao Shuai insisted on it. He couldn't change his mind, so he could only reluctantly agree. Therefore, when a 5 to 6 meter tall squirrel suddenly appeared on the battlefield, all the souls were startled, especially when the squirrel's tail was quite big and it was constantly swaying. How can it transform so quickly? Helion Kong looked at the big pine tree in shock. Although the bone battle soldier would also change its shape quickly, it had completely changed from an ugly dwarf to a small squirrel. This was already a huge change. Normal soul soldiers wouldn't be able to coordinate it at all. Little Mouse. The Bull Demon King was also stunned. Little Mouse, your sister. I'm called Xiao Shuai. Xiao is Xiao from Xiao Shuai, and Shuai is Shuai from Xiao Shuai. Xiao Shuai scolded in dissatisfaction. Chapter 622. The adamantine skeleton warrior's bone tail was wrapped in runes as it swung about violently. Drawing in the surrounding spiritual energy, the adamantine skeleton warrior created a hurricane around the battlefield. Even though there were gaps in the adamantine skeleton warrior's wings, it was still too big. Unable to stand firm against Xiao Shuai's hurricane of spiritual energy, the adamantine skeleton warrior was forced to take several steps back. Xiao Shuai's tail wasn't limited to that. A long bone chain drilled out from the adamantine skeleton warrior's tail. Before the adamantine skeleton warrior could steady itself, the bone chain had already passed through the gaps in its wings and firmly locked onto them. I'll take you for a spin in the sky. Xiao Shuai cried out happily. Another pair of bone wings sprouted out from the adamantine skeleton warrior's back. The runes on the bone wings trembled violently and brought the adamantine skeleton warrior up into the sky. In front of the 15-meter-tall adamantine skeleton warrior, Xiao Shuai's size was insignificant. But with the help of the runes, not only was the adamantine skeleton warrior able to fly, but it was also able to lift the adamantine skeleton warrior up. Damn! Let go of it! The Ox King roared angrily. Controlling the claws in his hands, he tried to grab at Xiao Shuai. But Xiao Shuai's bone chain was far longer than the adamantine skeleton warrior's claws. Helpless, the Ox King could only try to tear at Xiao Shuai's bone chain in an attempt to break it. Don't pull, stupid cow. I'll let go. Little Commander immediately retracted his bone chain. At this time, he had already brought the divine oxbone warrior more than 100 meters into the air. Whoosh! The adamantine skeleton warrior fell from the sky. Its wings flapped non-stop, but without the support of Mu Yu's runes, the adamantine skeleton warrior was unable to fly. Thus, the adamantine skeleton warrior slammed into the ground. Boom! The adamantine skeleton warrior smashed a crater into the ground. Many of its bones were broken, but it was still a powerful soul armament. Falling from such a height was only enough to make it dizzy, but not enough to break it apart. However, little Shuai laughed happily again. Suddenly, a huge hammer made of bones appeared in his hand. The huge hammer was covered in green runes. Big stupid cow, I'll use a small hammer to hit you. Xiao Shuai dived down once more. Mu Yu had engraved a Qianjun formation onto the bone hammer, giving it a frightening amount of strength. With the addition of a soul armament, the hammer was not to be underestimated. Even though the Bull Demon King had been through hundreds of battles, he had never been thrown down from the sky like a chick. So at this moment, he was very angry in his heart. Looking at the incoming bone hammer, he didn't dare to be careless. He stretched out 2 hands from behind his back and supported his body. At the critical moment, he moved horizontally. However, the powerful force of the formation pattern still smashed the divine oxbone warrior into the boundary of the battlefield, causing it to fall down. Once the skeletal warriors entered the battlefield, they would not be able to leave unless they were completely destroyed. Big Stupid Cow is quite nimble. Little Commander controlled the Vajrabone warrior to do a flip in the air and nimbly landed on the ground. The souls of the human race were already boiling. How could they have imagined that the dwarf bone warrior that everyone looked down on would suddenly beat the insufferably arrogant divine oxbone warrior of the demon race to the point where it couldn't even fight back? Usually, when the skeletal warriors of both sides fought, most of them relied on brute force to tangle with each other and tear each other apart. Destroying the opponent's arms and tails was an advantage, so there was no need to use such fancy techniques. However, the Vajrabone warrior that Xiao Shuai controlled was far more nimble than anyone could imagine. It was no longer a clumsy, skeletal warrior. It was as if it had been given a life of its own. I told you that my eyes wouldn't be wrong. Helian Kong was pleasantly surprised as he looked at the nimble skeletal warrior. The fact that the skeletal warrior could fly had already exceeded their expectations. This was really too inconceivable. Gue Yezi's expression was very ugly. He clearly didn't expect the Vajrabone warrior to have such powerful battle strength. The battle isn't over yet. The divine oxbone warrior is not to be trifled with. Gue Yezi snorted. Why does it sound like you can't wait for our human skeletal warrior to lose? Helian Kong was very dissatisfied with Gue Yezi's mockery and ridicule. I'm just reminding you not to underestimate your opponent. Gue Yezi was naturally very displeased to be accused of such a thing. However, he really didn't want the Vajrabone warrior to win. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to obtain Helian Kong's soul tool. If he couldn't obtain Helian Kong's soul tool, then, when Gue Yezi thought of this, a trace of ruthlessness flashed through his eyes. He naturally didn't want to obtain Helian Kong's soul tool just to defeat the Yao race. He had other plans. He definitely couldn't let this junior from the Pill Cauldron School ruin his plans. Xiao Shuai, don't use the Qianjun formation anymore. It's very tiring, Mu Yu said. Xiao Shuai was having fun, but Mu Yu was the one doing the work throughout the entire process. The foundation of the formation had chaotic yin and yang, so there was no need to worry. However, using the formation required a lot of spiritual power, not to mention that it had just used up a lot of spiritual power to lift the 15-meter-tall skeletal warrior into the air. It would be fine if he fell to his opponent's death, but if he didn't fall to his death, then he couldn't casually use the formation again. Otherwise, he would lose his own life. I know, I'll be careful from now on, Xiao Shuai said as he rubbed his palms together. However, at this moment, a tailbone suddenly shot out from the ground and directly wrapped around the Vajrabone warrior's thigh. A huge force came from the Vajrabone warrior's leg and lifted it up. Bang! The Vajrabone warrior was ruthlessly smashed to the ground. Then, the divine Oxbone warrior was like a whip, smashing the Vajrabone warrior left and right. F***CK, stupid ox, actually dared to sneak attack me. Xiao Shuai shouted angrily. Muyu gritted his teeth. He had to use all his strength to maintain the latent shadow puppet formation to prevent any bones in his body from breaking. Xiao Shuai realized that he couldn't break free from the opponent's tailbone. This time, the opponent's tailbone was very well prepared and didn't leave any loopholes. However, Xiao Shuai had endless ideas when it came to playing this kind of game. He directly spread out the leg that was caught, and every piece of bone that was spread out was guided by the fine formation patterns. Using another method, he broke free from the opponent's tailbone and reassembled them. Muyu finally stabilized the Vajrabone warrior. The two skeletal warriors looked at each other in the distance. Do you really think I'm that easy to defeat? The bull demon king fiercely pounced at the Vajrabone warrior again. His huge fist created a gust of wind in the air and ruthlessly smashed into the Vajrabone warrior's body with a surge of soul power. Muyu's expression changed. After the Vajrabone warrior received the divine Oxbone warrior's punch, it faintly showed signs of collapsing. The formation patterns on its body also began to become chaotic. Its soul power. Muyu forgot one thing. Normally, skeletal warriors were controlled by the soul. The soul could use soul power to strengthen the skeletal warrior's strength. However, Muyu's skeletal warrior didn't have any soul power. Therefore, under this attack, it was clearly at a disadvantage. He was now regretting not letting the soul soldier participate in the battle. If the human soul joined, it would at least provide Muyu with some soul power. Xiao Shuai, we can't take his soul power head-on. Muyu shouted in a deep voice. Xiao Shuai also realized how powerful the opponent's soul power was. In the beginning of the battle, the Vajrabone warrior was extremely fast and didn't give the opponent any chance to react. Therefore, the opponent didn't have the chance to use his soul power. However, now that the opponent had recovered, they were in big trouble. Soul power, it's over. We can't dissolve their soul power. Xiao Shuai scratched his head. Mu Ling was originally the nemesis of these souls. However, because of the powerful restriction on the Demon Island, Mu Ling couldn't hurt these souls. Therefore, Mu Ling couldn't absorb their soul power. This was troublesome. Boom! The divine Oxbone warrior punched again, but Xiao Shuai dodged in time. The opponent's fist smashed the ground open. However, at this moment, a powerful soul power suddenly erupted from Helian Kong's soul tool and instantly merged with Mu Yu's formation patterns. Mu Yu was stunned. Helian Kong's leg bone actually had this kind of ability? That soul power seemed to have been suppressed for a long time and had been looking for an outlet. At this moment, Mu Yu was surprised to find that he could use the formation patterns to guide this powerful soul power. This kind of soul power was different from the soul power of the third palace. This kind of soul power was pure and wasn't contaminated with other impurities. The soul power of the third palace seemed to have been extracted and didn't have the smooth and natural feeling. Muyu didn't think too much. He immediately controlled the powerful soul power emitted from the leg bone and directly merged the soul power into his formation patterns. Xiao Shuai, Muyu shouted. Got it. Big stupid ox, have a taste of my Xiao Shuai's wind god leg. Xiao Shuai began to dance with joy as he laughed heartily. A powerful array pattern suddenly emerged from the bone soldier's leg bone. The array pattern fused with sharp soul force. After that, the adamantine bone soldier turned into a shadow as it kicked the divine oxbone soldier at an extremely terrifying speed. Poochie. With a soft sound, the Vajrabone warrior's right leg directly kicked the divine oxbone warrior's chest. At the same time, many barbs suddenly extended from the Vajrabone warrior's right leg and firmly hooked the divine oxbone warrior's chest. Deafening thunder snake, swift shadow. Muyu's hands were already pinching the array technique. The array pattern was guided by his fingertips and transmitted to his right leg. Then, it fused with his soul power. Blue snake shadows scuttled around the bones of the divine oxbone warrior, directly electrocuting the souls of some of the monster race people. Xiao Shui seized the opportunity. His tail turned into countless bone chains and locked onto the divine Oxbone warrior's weak joints. Crash! The 15-meter-tall divine Oxbone warrior actually turned into a pile of broken bones in an instant. Did I really win? Chapter 623. Huh, I told you my Transformers are invincible. Little Shui excitedly controlled the Bone Battle Soldier to do a 720 somersault in the air. Damn it, next time you do the work, I'll control the Bone Battle Soldier. Muyu watched as the demarcation line automatically moved 1 meter towards the Yao race. Only then did he control the Bone Battle Soldier to walk out of the battlefield and jump off. Good lad, I didn't expect you to have such a move. Hellion Kong had already floated over excitedly and slapped Muyu's shoulder again. Muyu felt his shoulder being hit by a piece of ice again. Senior, I'll return your leg bone to you. I didn't break your leg. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Muyu said with a smile. Hellion Kong didn't take back his soul tool. Instead, he asked mysteriously, how is it? Is my soul tool useful? It's useful. To be honest, it's all thanks to the soul power in your soul tool. Muyu nodded. If it's useful, then I'll let you use it first. You'll just be responsible for helping us win a few more rounds. Hellion Kong stroked his beard and said generously. Muyu rolled his eyes. Senior, let me ask you. If we want to reach the demon subduing pagoda, how many more rounds do we need to win? Let me calculate. This place is about 60 kilometers away from the demon subduing pagoda. That's not too far, right? Anyway, with your cultivation, you can fly there in the blink of an eye. The demarcation line moves 1 meter for every round you win, so you need to win 60,000 kilometers. According to the situation where we can win 2 rounds a day without losing, we'll be able to win back the demon subduing pagoda's territory in 80 years. Hellion Kong said casually. Muyu directly spat out a mouthful of blood. 80 years? You wanted to stay on the island for 80 years? Muyu was about to go crazy. We've been trapped for 5,000 years, and you've only been trapped for 80 years. That's not too bad. Hellion Kong felt that Muyu was making a fuss over nothing. Muyu knocked on his head. He felt a slight headache. Are there any shortcuts that we can take? For example, the kind where you can walk 10 kilometers if you win a match? Muyu asked helplessly. Hellion Kong revealed a strange smile. Of course there is. Muyu's heart skipped a beat, because looking at Hellion Kong's smile, he felt as if the latter had purposely set up a trap for him to fall into. Senior, just say it. What do you want me to do? Muyu spread out his hands. Now that he was trapped with a bunch of souls and had no way to get out, he could only play along with them. Hellion Kong came over and said in a small voice, Do you know why the demi-humans keep trying to push the dividing line over? Why? It's because the Sea Demon King's royal city is on this island, and it's occupied by our human race, Hellion Kong said with a smile. So what? The Sea Fiend King was locked up in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. If they want to save the Sea Demon King, shouldn't they try to find a way to enter the Yao Ceiling Pagoda? Muyu knew that every Sea Demon King had his own royal city, but after several explorations, he wasn't interested in the Sea Demon King's royal city at all. Even though the Sea Demon King would use a special demonic technique to send his inner core, heart, and other strange things back to the protected area in order to preserve his power before he was sealed up, the Sea Demon King was trapped on this island, so he didn't have to do that. Let me tell you about the past. Back then, spiritual master Xian Jizi led us to fight the demi-humans to the death. He and the Sea Demon King fought until both sides suffered heavy losses. Even though Xian Jizi won in the end and used the Yao Ceiling Pagoda to subdue the Sea Demon King and eliminate all the demi-humans, we also suffered heavy losses. In order to prevent the Sea Demon King from escaping, spiritual master Xian Jizi sealed off the whole demonic island and also trapped all the souls that died in the battle. Hellion Kong recalled the battle back then, and his expression became solemn and respectful. In the end, he didn't choose to leave, but entered the Sea Demon King's royal city by himself and never came out again. Apart from spiritual master Xian Jizi, No one else knows the way to enter the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. So you only need to enter the Sea Demon King's royal city, find a method left behind by spiritual master Xianjizi, and negotiate with the demi-humans. The demi-humans will definitely agree to give up their territory and let you enter the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Helion Kong's expression was very solemn. No wonder the demi-humans always wanted to seize the Sea Demon King's underground palace. Otherwise, everyone would be dead, and they could get along with each other peacefully. Muyu frowned. Senior, why are you helping me? Because you're a descendant of my Pill Cauldron sect. Cut the crap. You've been guarding the royal city for so many years, fighting against the demi-humans, just to take back the Yao Ceiling Pagoda and prevent the Sea Demon King from escaping. Now, you wanted to go to the royal city to find a way to open the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Do you want the Sea Demon King to come out? Muyu didn't believe Helion Kong's words. Helion Kong smiled awkwardly, a hint of panic clearly flashing through his eyes. Not at all. I just don't want our Pill Cauldron sect to lose a good seedling. Senior, let's not beat around the bush. What exactly do you want to do by encouraging me to go to the Sea Demon King's royal city? Muyu asked directly. Helion Kong's expression struggled for a moment. In the end, he still sighed heavily and said, I want to be free. Free? Muyu was surprised. I've been trapped on this island in the form of a soul for 5,000 years, cut off from the rest of the world. I only have to face other souls all day long, and I still have to fight against the demi-humans. For 5,000 years, every day has been like this. It's really too torturous, Helion Kong said bitterly. The long days were like a prison. They obtained eternal life in the form of a soul, but the price they had to pay in exchange was to be trapped on an isolated island, and no one cared about them. In order to prevent the Sea Demon King from coming into being, they guarded the demonic island for 5,000 years, but no one in the cultivation world remembered them. They could only fight incessantly, fight until they were numb. Muyu pursed his lips. He could understand this kind of pain. It was just like when the heavenly formation Tao was trapped like flowing water at his fingertips. It could live forever, but it lost its freedom and was forgotten by time in some corner. Our souls are unable to enter the Sea Demon King's royal city, so I hope you can find Taoist Xianjizi and obtain the method to open the demon-suppressing pagoda. Only then will you have a chance to enter the demon-suppressing pagoda. Think of a way to break the restrictions on the demonic island so that we can leave this place. Even if our souls are scattered, as long as we're no longer tortured by time, it's a kind of freedom. Helion Kong sighed. Do the others think so as well? Muyu asked. Helion Kong shook his head. The souls of us humans are divided into the persevering faction and the liberating faction. The persevering faction is led by Gui Yuzi and Bohong. They insist that we should continue to fight to protect the demonic island and take back the demon-suppressing pagoda. The liberating faction is led by me and Muming Fei. We feel that this kind of battle is meaningless because no one knows what we have done. However, the persevering faction is the majority. They all believe that it is necessary for us to fight to protect the demon-suppressing pagoda. Muyu is silent. He wouldn't blame Helion Kong for wanting to shirk his responsibility. In reality, guarding the demon-suppressing pagoda wasn't Helion Kong and the others' responsibility at all, because they had already sacrificed their lives to defeat the demonic beasts when they were alive. After they died, they were forcefully imprisoned in this place with no way to escape. This was a rather cruel thing to do. They fought the demonic beasts here every day for the demon-suppressing pagoda. But the cultivators in the outside world were completely unaware of this. They also didn't receive any rewards for their efforts. If it weren't for Muyu and the other people from the Gate of Hell and demonic beasts who were about to arrive, they probably wouldn't have discovered the abnormalities on this island. You guys can't enter the Sea Demon King's royal city, so how am I supposed to enter? Muyu asked. Actually, the key to the Sea Demon King's royal city is in my hands, or rather, it's in your hands right now, Helion Kong said with a smile. Muyu waved the soul tool in his hand and asked in surprise, You're talking about your thigh bone? He thought that Helion Kong's thigh bone was just an extremely powerful soul tool. He didn't expect that it was actually the key to opening the Sea Demon King's royal city. If Helion Kong's leg had been broken during the battle, just now, then it would really be over for him. That's right. This is also the reason why the Ghost Realm Child wants my soul tool. It's because he doesn't want you to enter the underground palace of the Sea Demon King. He wants to protect the demonic island, obtain my soul tool, and safeguard the key to the Sea Demon King's royal city for me. He doesn't want the demonic island to fall into the hands of the demonic beasts, Helion Kong said. However, Muyu felt that it was inconceivable. He had been in contact with the people from the Gate of Hell for more than a day or two. The people from the Gate of Hell would do anything to achieve their own goals. They would kill cultivators and collect all kinds of wandering souls and wild ghosts for their own use. How could they have the sense of responsibility to protect the demonic subduing pagoda, considering that Gue Yiming and the others were about to come to the demonic island? Muyu felt that the people from the Gate of Hell were brewing some kind of conspiracy. Because of the existence of the demonic subduing pagoda, the people from the Gate of Hell couldn't do anything to the souls of the demonic island. Then why did they come here? Why is the key to the Sea Demon King's royal city in your soul tool? Muyu asked in confusion. The Sea Demon King's royal city belonged to the demonic beasts. The demonic beasts didn't get the key, but Helion Kong got the key instead. This was too strange. Helion Kong said, "Actually, the Sea Demon King's royal city has been modified by Taoist Master Xian Jizi a long time ago. Many of Taoist Master Xian Jizi's spells were also cast on the surroundings. The royal city is just an empty shell to the demonic beasts. The real royal city has already become Taoist Master Xian Jizi's territory. He once sealed a powerful aura in my soul tool before entering the royal city. He told me that if the demonic beasts wanted to release the Sea Demon King in the future, they could take my soul tool and go to the royal city." Muyu asked in confusion, "Release the Sea Demon King? Why would Taoist Master Xian Jizi think that the demonic beasts want to release the Sea Demon King? The demonic beasts didn't hesitate to pay any price in order to seal the Sea Demon King. So many heroic souls had died in battle for this. Even Helion Kong, a rank 8 alchemist with an incomparably noble status, couldn't escape this calamity. So many people had died in order to seal the Sea Demon King, but in the end, Taoist Master Xian Jizi wanted to release the Sea Demon King? Helion Kong shook his head. This is also my suspicion. However, Taoist Master Xian Jizi told me that the conflict between the demonic beasts and humans isn't as simple as it seems on the surface. When the time is ripe, the Sea Demon King must be released. Chapter 624. The Demon King had to come out? Ever since the Great War between humans and demons several thousand years ago, only the Azure Dragon Demon King remained. The others were all sealed away. The White Ape Demon King was the first Demon King to be released. This matter was also related to Muyu. Even now, Muyu and the White Ape Demon King still look down on each other. Muyu also knew where the Desert Hawk Demon King was sealed. However, the Desert Hawk Demon King was currently under the control of Xiongnan, Muyu's senior brother. And now, Muyu had come to the Sea Demon King Yuzhong's sealed place, only to be told that the Demon King would come out? What had happened to this world? Could it be that the battle between humans and demons several thousand years ago had other secrets? In short, if you want to leave, you have to rely on the Yao Sealing Pagoda. Remove the barrier that surrounds the entire island. As for how to do that, you have to enter the Sea Demon King's underground palace. Helion Kong amiably patted Muyu's shoulder. Muyu felt a chill run down his spine. All right, then take me to the Sea Demon King's royal city to see the situation, Muyu said helplessly. Helion Kong looked at Gue Yezi and Bo Hong in the distance and whispered, "We can't do it now. Although the Sea Demon King's royal city has been taken over by our human souls, Gue Yezi and Bo Hong's people are guarding the entrance to the Sea Demon King's royal city. They won't allow you to do something like this. We have to think about this at length." Muyu felt a headache coming on. "Tell me you already have a plan." Helion Kong nodded confidently. We just need to lure them away. How? I'm still thinking. Muyu looked at the bones on the ground and laughed dryly. He felt a little sad to come to such a strange place and run into such an unreliable senior from the Pill Cauldron sect. Are we going to fight again today? I'm ready. Little Shuai waved Hellion Kong's leg bone around. He treated this battle between bone warriors as a game and was very excited. Fight! Why not? Muyu thought that since he had nothing to do now, he might as well take back a few meters of territory first. Hellion Kong watched as Xiao Shuai played with his soul tool like a toy and felt a headache coming on. He could let Muyu use his soul tool as he pleased, but he definitely wouldn't let a small pet use it as a toy. Under Hellion Kong's guidance, Muyu figured out how to use the soul tool. With the help of the soul tool, he could avoid the situation from just now and also know how to deal with unexpected situations. Under the control of his array, Little Shuai played with his Vajra skeleton warrior like a fiddle and defeated the demon clan 3 times in a row. Come on, don't be a coward. Xiao Shuai stood on top of the skeletal warrior's head and shouted at the demons. Damn it, you traitorous bastard. You're obviously a demon beast, but you actually chose to help a human. Pluck its fur. The demons looked at the overbearing little handsome and were about to explode from anger. Bah, you are the demonic beast. Your whole family are demonic beasts. I am a divine beast. Divine beast. Divine beast. Xiao Shuai scolded in exasperation. Muyu coughed twice and reminded in a low voice, Little Shuai, their true forms are indeed demonic beasts. Their whole family is also demonic beasts. You are not scolding them. As for whether Little Shuai was a divine beast, Muyu didn't know. In any case, the 2 words divine beast had always been given by Little Shuai himself. I don't care. You bunch of cowards, hurry up and come out. I want to teach you all a good lesson. Little Shuai threw his bones loudly. After winning 4 rounds in a row, the demon clan no longer accepted the challenge. This was because they realized that something was wrong. Muyu's skeletal warrior was actually able to defeat them. This was too strange. Thus, no matter how much Little Shuai scolded them, these demon clan members didn't rashly send out their skeletal warrior again. They had to carefully study the current situation. Little Shuai gestured with Hellion Kong's leg bone in disappointment. All along the way, he was planning how to transform his skeletal warrior to teach the demon clan members a lesson tomorrow. At the same time, he was discussing with Muyu how to improve the spell formation so that the skeletal warrior would be more agile. The humans looked at Muyu as if they were welcoming a hero back in triumph. Muyu's performance today had raised their morale. Moreover, he had perfectly defeated the demon clan's skeletal warrior. Furthermore, he had used the limited amount of human bones to perfection. This was really rare. The human spirits all looked at Muyu in a new light. They looked at Muyu with burning passion. It was as if they were looking at Muyu as a star of tomorrow. Being stared at by a group of spirits that had lived for thousands of years, Muyu felt a little uneasy. He felt a little guilty. However, among so many human spirits, Muyu discovered that there was one spirit that was constantly staring at him with hostility. It was the spirit of the person from the gate of hell, Guei Yuzi. Muyu didn't know what Guei Yuzi was thinking, but it definitely couldn't be anything good. Looking at his sinister gaze, it was as if he was plotting something on Muyu. At night, the demon subduing pagoda was still gently illuminating the entire demon island, repairing the bones that had been shattered during the day. Hellion Kong brought Muyu to the front of the Sea Demon King's royal city. The Sea Demon King's royal city was at the edge of the towering coast. Below, it was a cliff of the sea, standing proudly against the sea breeze. The Sea Demon King's royal city had a special charm. It wasn't as magnificent as the Sand Eagle royal city that Muyu had seen before. The walls of the Sea Demon King's royal city were made of all kinds of tall corals and reefs. All kinds of corals were wrapped in a layer of transparent seawater, swaying gently. This seawater was flowing. It was unknown where it came from, but it surged along the cliff and fell into the sea, forming a spectacular waterfall. The royal city within the walls was shrouded in a layer of white fog, and the situation inside couldn't be seen clearly. Helian Kong told Muyu that this fog was set up by enlightened Master Xianjizi. He had set up a powerful protective formation for the entire royal city, and it was very difficult to enter. The original Sea Demon King also had his own formation, but they were all modified by enlightened Master Xianjizi. Now, it's full of complicated formations. Be careful when you go in, Helian Kong said solemnly. Wait, you said it's full of formations inside. Muyu looked at Helian Kong with a strange expression. Helian Kong nodded. Enlightened Master Xianjizi said that if you want to obtain his inheritance, you have to pass his test, so he set up a lot of profound formations. He said that if you can't pass the test of these formations, then you have to become a member of the Demon Subduing Pagoda. This means that it's very likely that those formations will kill you. Helian Kong's expression was very serious. Formations, Muyu opened his mouth. He would cross that bridge when he got there. He was the best at formations and whatnot. Helian Kong said solemnly, I know you know some formations, but enlightened Master Xianjizi is different. He was once a senior of the Formation Talisman sect, and his formation skills have reached perfection. The formations he set up can't be underestimated. Formation Talisman sect? Muyu felt that this world was really too small. Wherever he went, he would run into familiar faces. He was now also the leader of the Formation Talisman sect. That's right. You should know about the Formation Talisman sect. It's a famous formation master among the 9 sects. Their formation skills are really unbelievably powerful. Thus, after you go in, you have to be vigilant. Many of their formation skills are very powerful, and if you're not careful, you'll become one of us. I'm very worried that you won't be able to deal with those formation skills, Helian Kong said solemnly. Muyu didn't know how to tactfully explain his formation skills to Helian Kong. Although he didn't bring the Formation Talisman Stone with him, he was still very familiar with various formations. Enlightened Master Xianjizi was even more powerful than Helian Kong, who had once been in the Tribulation Passing stage. This meant that the Formation Talisman sect must have been a rather prosperous sect in the past. It was just a pity that the Formation Talisman sect later split up, causing the Formation Talisman sect to fall into decline. Okay, Senior, I'll definitely be careful. But before that, can we discuss how to enter the Sea Demon King's royal city? Muyu looked at the 20 or so souls floating at the gate of the Sea Demon King's royal city. These souls were responsible for guarding the Sea Demon King's royal city. A few of them were Helian Kong's subordinates, but most of them wouldn't listen to Helian Kong's orders. Helian Kong shrugged helplessly. I don't know. I can dispatch a few of my subordinates, but I can't do anything about the others. Once the Ghost Regent Child and the others find out, they have the ability to seal off the Sea Demon King's royal city. Do you souls ever feel sleepy? No. Don't sleep. Don't sleep. What about changing shifts? Once every 3 months. Under what circumstances will they leave? They won't leave under any circumstances. This is a kind of responsibility. When speaking of responsibility, Helian Kong even puffed out his chest proudly. Guarding the Sea Demon King's royal city left behind by Taoist Master Xianjizi made these undying souls develop a sense of responsibility. Muyu simply wanted to vomit blood. If it was under such circumstances, how could he possibly sneak in without anyone noticing? Why are you guarding the Sea Demon King's royal city? It's not like anyone will barge in. This is Taoist Master Xianjizi's request. Moreover, many souls like to take turns to guard the Sea Demon King's royal city, because guarding the gate makes us souls feel very comfortable. A hint of yearning appeared on Helian Kong's face. Muyu slapped his forehead. Needless to say, he knew that Taoist Master Xianjizi must have used a special method at the gate of the Sea Demon King's royal city. Otherwise, who would want to guard the Sea Demon King's royal city? Oh no, they were ghosts. Muyu circled around the Sea Demon King's royal city once. A powerful array pattern covered the entire Sea Demon King's royal city. This array pattern was very strange, and it blocked off anyone from entering. Muyu had only seen this kind of powerful array pattern in the flowing water at the fingertips of the array Heavenly Tao. This Taoist Master Xian Jizi's array skills probably wouldn't lose to the array Heavenly Tao. Although Mu Yu was the sect master of the array talisman sect, he had only received the recognition of the chaotic yin and yang. He still had to fumble around with his own understanding of the array Tao, especially when Xian Jizi's array skills contained his own special domain. Just this alone was something that Mu Yu couldn't compare to. In the array skills domain, it would probably be much more difficult for Mu Yu to break the array. He helplessly left the Sea Demon King's royal city and bade farewell to Hellion Kong. He found a soulless place to think about his next plan. I remember that Deadwood Daddy's Xian arrays mentioned about the knowledge of the array skills domain. It might be useful. Little Handsome seemed to have thought of something. Chapter 625. Xian Formations was too thick, and Mu Yu hadn't finished reading it completely. The second half of Xian Formations was especially complicated, and some of the formations required at least the cultivation of the body integration stage to use, so Mu Yu hadn't read those formations. The ability of the domain was in a corner of Xian Formations that Mu Yu had neglected. The domain is a special kind of technique. Different people comprehend different domains. This kind of technique is closely related to one's body, and everyone can find the most suitable domain in their heart. By adding the domain to one's body, one can take the absolute initiative in a fight and even suppress the opponent. The reason why the domain can only be comprehended by cultivators at the Great Ascension stage is because cultivators at the Great Ascension stage can already preliminarily come into contact with the laws of heaven. When a person comprehends a certain kind of technique to a high level, they can also use this technique to comprehend their own domain, such as my no life and despair. Unfortunately, my domain was restrained by a little brat, so I never showed it in front of him. He will definitely see it one day. That's right, I'm talking about you. Last time, you stole my book, and I didn't have time to finish it. You're asking for a beating, always using my stuttering as an excuse. If it weren't for the fact that you little brat had some conscience, I would have slapped you to death. Mu Yu read carefully, and in the end, he realized that the little brat seemed to be referring to himself. He awkwardly scratched the back of his head. Who would have thought that Deadwood Daddy would include his dissatisfaction in Xian Formations? The complaint was a total of 500 words, and all of it was scolding Mu Yu. Mu Yu could completely imagine Deadwood Daddy's expression and movements as he scolded him, and the way his beard would twitch. Really, Dad, can't you be responsible for your readers and write a good book? Mu Yu smiled. He missed those days very much. He really wanted to be scolded by Deadwood Daddy again, even if it was just listening to Deadwood Daddy's voice. After reading Deadwood Daddy's introduction to the field of matrices, Mu Yu was filled with admiration for Deadwood Daddy. When Mu Yu met Ku Mu's cultivation was at the body integration stage. However, his array techniques were so powerful that even Bai Jie didn't want to provoke him. Now, Mu Yu finally understood why. Generally speaking, only cultivators at least at the Mahayana stage could comprehend domains, but Deadwood Daddy relied on his heaven-defying comprehension of arrays to create an array formation with a powerful domain. The domain that Ku Mu comprehended was called no life and despair. It was very difficult for anything to survive in his domain. All the runes were filled with a terrible poison. This poison was all-pervasive. Even if one's body was protected by spiritual energy, it would be completely eroded by the poison. The dead tree was infamous in the cultivation world. Before Mu Yu went to the Dead Tree Valley, all the self-cultivators knew that the Dead Tree Valley was a forbidden area. Even the 8 gates warned their disciples not to go to the Dead Tree Valley. The reason was that the Dead Tree's array technique was too terrifying. However, the no life and despair finally met its nemesis. Mu Yu became the person who narrowly escaped death in the no life and despair. Deadwood Daddy loved and hated his special ability to control wood. Mu Yu was the only person who wasn't afraid of Deadwood Daddy's no life and despair. Kumu had never told Mu Yu about this before. Kumu rarely used this domain. After his cultivation dissipated, he couldn't use this domain anymore. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. The arrays that he had placed in the valley before were just child's play. If he really used no life and despair in the valley, then the valley would really become a forbidden area. No wonder Deadwood Daddy didn't like me in the beginning. Muyu muttered. He had become the only nemesis of Deadwood Daddy's domain and was also Feng Haochen's disciple. It would be strange if Muyu liked Deadwood Daddy in the beginning. Deadwood Daddy recorded the process of how he comprehended the array technique domain. Muyu, do you want to give it a try? That way, you can have 2 domains. Xiao Shuai said with great interest. What 2 domains? I don't even have a fart. Muyu said as he spread out his hands. How could something like a domain be so easy to comprehend? Deadwood Daddy was such a genius, but he also comprehended it when he was in the unification stage. Muyu's attainments in array techniques couldn't be compared to his. At most, Muyu's brain worked faster and could deduce complicated arrays. You already have a domain. Life and death is your domain in the blink of an eye. Xiao Shuai said casually. Muyu stopped, extremely surprised. Life and death is also a domain in the blink of an eye. Muyu never knew about this. Xiao Shuai nodded. Yes, the 5 Spirit Lords Yumeng's ability is a domain. Moreover, it is a very advanced domain. Ordinary Great Ascension Stage cultivators can't comprehend this domain at all, nor can they compare to this domain. Then what is my master's domain? Muyu thought of her own master, the mysterious and unfathomable Sword Shadow Chen Feng. He was able to suppress 5 Spirit Lord Yumeng. How could his domain be extraordinary? Xiao Shuai tilted his head and thought for a moment before saying, I forgot about this. It might be a powerful sword domain. I remember that it seems to have something to do with me. Aya, why do you care about this? What does it have to do with you? Muyu was stunned. Xiao Shuai was the fellow that Feng Haochen used to block the spiritual aura eye. This fellow usually ate and drank, and when he encountered danger, he would occasionally use his little claws to summon a giant sword and wave it around. Xiao Shuai really couldn't see any relationship with Feng Haochen's powerful domain. Hurry up and see if you can comprehend your own array technique domain according to Deadwood Daddy's pointers. From the perspective of a domain, you might be able to break the formation without going through the Sea Demon Imperial City's gate. Xiao Shuai said. Xiao Shuai was a very muddle-headed fellow. He came out of an egg and had some fragmented memories. Sometimes he knew a lot of things, but the things he knew often made Muyu feel that it was inconceivable. Muyu forcibly suppressed the doubts in his heart and began to comprehend the understanding of array technique left behind by Deadwood Daddy. He realized that Xiao Shuai was right. If he could comprehend his own domain or understand the characteristics of the array technique domain, then he might be able to deal with the protective formation left behind by enlightened Master Xianjizi. According to Deadwood Daddy's introduction of the array technique domain, Muyu couldn't comprehend the Heavenly Tao's rules. His cultivation was far from enough. The only way was to use the second method, which was to start with the spells that he was best at. Muyu was undoubtedly the best at swordsmanship and array technique, but no matter what, he hadn't learned them to the highest level. Although his strength had increased after learning the sword array, he didn't dare say that his sword array had reached the same level as his master. Thinking of this, he became a little discouraged. There was no way he could comprehend a domain like this. Xiao Shuai turned a page and continued to read. A domain isn't invincible. There will always be flaws. If you can't comprehend a domain and fall into someone else's domain, then you can use my method to break a domain. Domains also have mutual restraints. The restraints are reflected in the nature of the domain. You must first understand what a domain is used for. For example, if you fall into my domain, you will definitely be poisoned to death. My domain relies on the array pattern. If you want to break my domain, you must understand the rhythm of the array pattern. No spell is perfect. It must have a flaw. Once this flaw is found, even if your cultivation is only at the qi refining stage, you can break it. Muyu carefully pondered the words that Deadwood Daddy had left for him. Since enlightened Master Xianjizi was also an array master, there must be array pattern in his domain. As long as he could find the weakness of this array pattern, then he would be able to move freely in his domain. The rhythm of the array pattern? Muyu fell into deep thought. His most powerful point was his extraordinary calculation ability. Back then, he was able to find the 8 steps to heaven in the chaotic array Hall's stairway to heaven. This was enough to show that he was extraordinary. Enlightened master Xianjizi's array technique domain was mixed with rhythmic array pattern. First of all, as long as he knew the true function of this array technique domain, then he could deduce the rhythm of the array pattern. Then he would know how to take advantage of the situation. Muyu nodded thoughtfully. Enlightened master Xianjizi's Yao Ceiling Pagoda could repair all damaged bones. This meant that his domain had the ability to recover. However, it was clear that this domain wasn't as simple as it looked. There had to be something special about it. He looked at the Yao Ceiling Pagoda in the distance, which was emitting a green light, and fell into deep thought. A night passed, and Muyu didn't figure out anything. However, he at least understood the mystical array technique domain. If Muyu could also control this domain ability, then even if he fought with someone more powerful, Muyu wouldn't be at a disadvantage. The day passed, and dawn arrived once again. This meant that today was going to be another great battle between bone warriors. Xiao Shuai was already there, ready to fight. However, just as Muyu was about to go find the demons to fight, a strange fluctuation came from the demon island. This fluctuation was very strange. It was like some kind of warning, as if it alarmed every soul and the only living person on the island. Senior, what's going on with this fluctuation? Muyu found Helian Kong and asked in puzzlement. Helian Kong's face revealed an astonished expression. It's the same situation as when you came to the demon island last time. This fluctuation is a warning spell set up by the Sea Demon King. It's specifically targeted at humans. Once a human comes to the demon island, it will be triggered. Now, it means that more people have come to the demon island. Either we haven't seen a living person for thousands of years, or there are several of them coming, and they're all coming from our shores. It's really strange. Let's go. Let's go take a look. More people have come to the demon island? Muyu's expression changed slightly. Since this fluctuation was specifically targeted at humans, it definitely wouldn't be triggered if the demons themselves came to the island. Then, without thinking, it was obvious who had come to the demon island this time. Guei Yezi's figure floated over. He glanced coldly at Muyu, and the corners of his mouth curved into a strange smile. Then, he turned into a stream of light and rushed toward the source of the fluctuation. Chapter 6:26. The last time Muyu came to the island, he did not feel this fluctuation. It was obvious that this fluctuation could only be felt on the island. There were a total of 4 groups of people who wanted to come to this island. One was Muyu, another was the people from the Gate of Hell, another was Boss Lu and the others who passed through the Holy Road, and the rest were Long Xingyun and Xiao Shui. The alarm would not be triggered by the demons, so it must be the people from the Gate of Hell who came ashore this time. He also rushed towards the shore. Because the island was only so big, there was no place for him to hide. Rather than that, he might as well face it head-on. Moreover, it would not be easy for the people from the Gate of Hell to kill him. Monstrous ghost chi spread from the shore and then gradually disappeared. Several people from the Gate of Hell were already surrounded by a group of souls. There were 12 people from the Gate of Hell on the island. All of them were at least in the spirit-severing stage. The leader, Guei Yeming, was even more unfathomable. Senior Guei Yezi, thank you for leading the way. Guei Yeming cupped his fists. The other people from the Gate of Hell also bowed to Guei Yezi. Guei Yezi was a famous senior of the people from the Gate of Hell. None of the people from the Gate of Hell dared to be arrogant. There's no need for formalities. You are 10 days later than the original plan, why? Guei Yezi asked plainly. Guei Yeming said, there was a sudden storm on the sea, and the route suddenly disappeared. That's why we were delayed for so long. If not for Senior's guidance, I'm afraid we would not be here now. Muyu suddenly understood. No wonder the people from the Gate of Hell came later than him. There was a problem with the route that Red Dragon remembered. But Muyu did not understand. Guei Yezi and the other souls were trapped on this island, isolated from the rest of the world. How did Guei Yezi communicate with the people from the Gate of Hell? Gue Yiming raised his head and saw Mu Yu behind the group of souls. He was slightly stunned, and then sneered. So there's a lowly person here who arrived earlier than us. As he spoke, Gue Yiming suddenly moved. He turned into a black shadow and charged at Mu Yu. He actually wanted to kill Mu Yu. Stop! Hellion Kong shouted angrily. A beam of soul power surged from his body and blocked Gue Yiming's figure. You people from the Gate of Hell want to kill the juniors of my Pill Cauldron sect as soon as you come to the island. Are you courting death? Hellion Kong glared at Gue Yiming angrily. Gue Yiming frowned slightly. Hellion Kong, as a soul, was able to block him. This clearly exceeded his expectations. The members of the Gate of Hell were experts in controlling souls. The ghost chi they cultivated was also specially created to restrain souls. However, when facing Hellion Kong, he couldn't gain the upper hand at all. Gue Yiming, you're not allowed to attack. The souls on this island are not as simple as you think. Besides, he is a junior of the Pill Cauldron sect. You must not harm him. Gue Yezi faintly stopped him. His tone wasn't sincere at all. It was completely perfunctory. If Hellion Kong wasn't here, he definitely wouldn't have stopped Gue Yiming. Oh, I forgot that the disciple of a true god is the disciple of the Pill Cauldron sect's Deadwood Evergreen. Gue Yiming sneered. The members of the Gate of Hell never cared about the identity of the person who killed. Moreover, this was the Demon Island. Even if they killed someone, who would know that it was done by the people of the Gate of Hell? What? You people from the Gate of Hell came here in groups. Could it be that you have designs on the souls here? As soon as Mu Yu said this, the surrounding souls stared at the people from the Gate of Hell with unfriendly gazes. Whether it was thousands of years ago or now, the people from the Gate of Hell were despised by everyone. Their methods were notoriously ruthless. That's right. What are you doing here? Hellion Kong frowned. So many people from the Gate of Hell came all of a sudden. He felt that something was wrong, especially when Gue Yiming and the others came here under the guidance of Gue Yezi. This was even more strange. Then what are you doing here? Gue Yiming coldly asked. Traveling. Mu Yu shrugged indifferently. He glanced at the other people from the Gate of Hell and saw Gue Hongyu among the people from the Gate of Hell. However, he didn't see the 9 mortal babies she was taking care of. She probably didn't bring them ashore. Gue Yiming didn't directly answer. Clearly, his purpose here wasn't so simple. You know that you can't leave this island, right? Mu Yu asked. Don't worry about it. Just take care of yourself. With Hellion Kong's protection, Gue Yiming couldn't do anything to Mu Yu. He turned around and led his people away with Gue Yezi. Mu Yu looked at the departing figures of the people from the Gate of Hell. He knew that the upcoming trip to the island wasn't going to be a happy one. If Gue Yiming seized the opportunity, he would probably be silenced. I have a feeling that the people from the Gate of Hell came here with bad intentions. Mu Yu, you have to be careful. Try to stay with me as much as possible, Hellion Kong said seriously. Originally, he wanted to find an opportunity to let Mu Yu sneak into Siren King City. However, the arrival of the people from the Gate of Hell meant that it would be even more difficult for Mu Yu to sneak into Siren King City. However, Mu Yu was thinking about one thing. Since the people from the Gate of Hell came here under the guidance of Gue Yezi, this meant that the people from the Gate of Hell must know that this island was restricted from leaving. They wouldn't fight an unprepared battle. Gue Yezi should know some methods. The fiend souls no longer had their arrogance. Yesterday, Mu Yu's skeleton soldiers were too strong. It was an overwhelming victory. They had to research a new method. However, no matter what skeleton soldiers they sent out, they couldn't beat Xiao Shuai's Vajra skeleton soldier. For 3 days in a row, the Fiend Soul skeleton soldiers were defeated by Xiao Shuai's Vajra skeleton soldier. Xiao Shuai was really good at playing games. He could always think of all kinds of strange moves to beat the opponent's skeleton soldiers. However, Mu Yu's attention wasn't on the skeleton soldiers. Instead, it was on the people from the Gate of Hell. Compared to the Fiend Souls, Mu Yu was more concerned about the arrival of the people from the Gate of Hell. The people from the Gate of Hell had been on the island for 2 days, but there was no movement. They didn't even look at the battle between the Fiend Souls and the Fiend Souls. It was as if they had disappeared without a trace. Gue Yezi rarely showed himself since Gue Yiming and the others came here. Gue Yezi and Helian Kong, the four human soul leaders, all had their own areas of influence on the island. At this moment, the people from the Gate of Hell were under Gue Yezi's jurisdiction. Helian Kong couldn't go over to investigate what the people from the Gate of Hell were doing. On the fourth day, Xiao Shui excitedly controlled his skeleton soldiers to jump onto the battlefield. They had to fight at least one battle a day. This was the rule they had set. However, the person who came on the battlefield this time surprised Mu Yu. It was Long Yeli. Sure enough, the monster clansmen also came to the Demon Island. When the monster clansmen came ashore, they didn't trigger the alarm. Moreover, that layer of barrier with extremely terrifying hindrance and lethality didn't affect them at all. This was because the monster clansmen didn't have any malicious intent towards a sea demon king. I was wondering which person from the Gate of Hell was so powerful, defeating our skeleton soldiers consecutively. It turned out to be you. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Long Yeli looked at Mu Yu with a sneer. Long Yeli was from Long Xingyun. At first, they joined forces to deal with Mu Yu and snatch the dragon vine. Unfortunately, Mu Yu escaped. But now, they actually appeared on the Demon Island. If Mu Yu's guess was right, then Long Yeli came here under the guidance of the Mermaid King. Xiao Shui didn't come? Mu Yu asked calmly. At first, in order to prevent Xiao Shui from interfering, they deliberately separated Xiao Shui from Mu Yu. When Mu Yu escaped, he didn't look for Xiao Shui because Xiao Shui was also a member of the fiend race. However, Xiao Shui was a human. When she came ashore, she should have triggered the alarm of the island. However, Mu Yu didn't notice any alarm fluctuations in the past 2 days. Didn't Xiao Shui come to this island? You don't have to worry about this. You should take care of yourself first. Long Yeli released the aura of a Unity Stage expert without reservation. A powerful pressure swept over. The soul of the human race was stunned for a moment and immediately shouted, "Shameless! This is a contest of skeleton soldiers. You actually didn't send your skeleton soldiers? This is too much." The soul of the human race knew that Mu Yu was only a severed soul stage expert and could control the skeleton soldiers to defeat the opponent. However, if the opponent was a Unity Stage fiend soul, it would be very difficult for Mu Yu to win. Control the skeleton soldiers? Then I'll use this bone to kill you. Long Yeli held a rib bone of a fiend beast in his hand and casually waved it twice in the air. The existence of the skeleton soldiers was mainly because the souls on the island couldn't directly hurt the other party. Moreover, they wanted to fight for territory, so they relied on controlling the skeleton soldiers to fight. There were no specific rules on how the skeleton soldiers were assembled and how many bones were used. In any case, as long as the other party skeleton soldiers were dismantled, they would win. Therefore, there were many ways to assemble the skeleton soldiers. Usually, when the skeleton soldiers of both sides fought, they used a lot of bones. Hundreds of souls had to coordinate and control the skeleton soldiers at the same time. Now that there were a few more living cultivators and fiends on the island, the skeleton soldiers didn't seem so important. According to Long Yeli, it didn't seem to be a violation of the rules if he only used one bone as a skeleton soldier. The more bones, the better. He didn't say that only one bone couldn't be used. No, we have to let the crossing tribulation stage expert from the Gate of Hell fight, Moonwing Fei said in a low voice. This battle for territory had already risen to a contest between the living human race and the fiend race. Then, whoever had the higher cultivation would be the winner. Gue Yiming had the cultivation of the crossing tribulation stage. If he participated in this contest, the human race would be invincible. Souls couldn't hurt souls, but souls could fight against living people. If they knew that the fiend race would send out a living fiend, they would send out a crossing tribulation stage soul to fight against Long Yeli. They definitely wouldn't be at a disadvantage. It's too late. Once they enter the boundary, they can't leave. They can only walk out of the boundary after the victor is decided. Helian Kong shook his head and said. He looked at Mu Yu, and a strange expression flashed across his eyes. So we don't need to use the skeleton soldiers, right? Chapter 6:27. Damn it. I've long found this stinky bug an eyesore. Beat him to death. Xiao Shui was still brooding because he couldn't play with his adamantine bone warrior to his heart's content. Long Ting also growled in a low voice, I hate bastards. Muyu knew that he had no way out. However, after 2 days of exploration, he had already discovered the wonderful use of He Liankong's soul tool. He Liankong's soul tool had a powerful force. If this force could be guided properly, it could be controlled by Muyu and unleash a great combat power. What? Are you planning to use a broken bone to deal with me? Long Yelly sneered. The bone in his hand was just an ordinary bone of a demonic beast. He only held it in his hand for the sake of the rules. Once they fought, this bone would be dispensable with the strength of a Unity Stage cultivator. Let's settle the debt you owed me last time. Muyu held the soul tool. A rich soul power instantly flowed through his body. This soul power was very powerful. It was even more powerful than the power of a 3-layered palace. It's time to settle the debt. You actually dared to kidnap the Lord True Dragon of our demonic beast race. I must kill you and save Lord True Dragon. Long Yelly laughed angrily. He was already charging towards Muyu. I've never seen such a shameless person. Muyu's eyes narrowed. He used the soul tool in his hand as a treasure and went up to meet Long Yelly. Bang! Muyu's soul tool and Long Yelly's demonic bone collided. A powerful aura instantly exploded with the two of them as the center. With a crisp sound, the demonic bone in Long Yelly's hand actually cracked and broke into pieces. This demonic beast's ribs were as hard as metal. However, they were still unable to withstand a single blow from Muyu's soul tool. In a normal fight between bone warriors, the human race relied on He Liankong's soul tool the most. This was because the power contained in this soul tool was very powerful. The demonic beast race had to rely on the soul tools of other demonic beasts to share this power. The demon bone in Long Yelly's hand wasn't even a soul weapon. It was just an ordinary bone. He was so arrogant that he thought he could use an ordinary demon bone to fight against He Liankong's soul weapon. He was simply overestimating himself. The soul weapon in Muyu's hand destroyed Long Yelly's demon bone like a hot knife through butter. Then, it continued to attack Long Yelly. Long Yelly was shocked. How could he have imagined that something like this would happen? After the bone in his hand was crushed into powder, he paused and retreated, causing Muyu to miss. What a powerful force! Long Yelly looked at Muyu in shock. His arm, that was holding onto the demon bone earlier, still felt numb. Muyu was actually able to pose a threat to him with his spirit-severing stage cultivation. This feeling was too strange. However, Long Yelly was naturally not a fool. He had just fought with Muyu a few days ago. He didn't believe that Muyu could reach the body integration stage in just a few days. He looked at the soul weapon in Muyu's hand and understood that this leg bone was the magic treasure that caused Muyu's strength to increase greatly. The formation patterns under Muyu's feet flashed, and the Big Dipper constellation formation appeared. He disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already above Long Yelly's head. The soul weapon in his hand smashed down fiercely on Long Yelly's head. After all, Long Yelly was a body integration stage monster. Even if his strength was not as strong as Muyu, his speed and reaction were far superior to Muyu's. Before Muyu smashed down, he had already flashed out. He turned around and came to the left side of Muyu. His hand instantly turned into a pitch-black dragon claw and grabbed at Muyu's neck. Muyu leaned back, but his body was still grabbed by Long Yelly's claw. A metallic sound rang out. Countless formation patterns flashed around Muyu's body. A shadow sword shot out from the void and slashed at Long Yelly's claw. He flashed out of Long Yelly's attack range. I still have a disadvantage in terms of cultivation. Muyu shook his head slightly. The strength and speed of a body integration stage cultivator were far above him. Currently, he was only borrowing the soul power of the soul weapon to temporarily strengthen his body. In terms of reaction, he still couldn't catch up with Long Yelly. You have a lot of good stuff on you, but you can't break it? What a good sword. Long Yelly's dragon claw grabbed Muyu's shadow sword. He originally wanted to break the shadow sword. But the toughness of the shadow sword was beyond his imagination. Even the dragon claw that he was so proud of couldn't break it. Look at this sharp sword chi. I'm afraid this is the heaven sword of Jian Ing Chun Feng. Kid, this sword is mine. Ha! Long Yeli revealed a greedy expression. Jianing Chun Feng's name was extremely famous even among the monster race. Although they lived in seclusion, they couldn't ignore the battle between the human race and Yu Ming. You want to take my heaven sword? Let's see if you have the ability to do so. Mu Yu smiled. The shadow sword in Long Yeli's hand suddenly rippled with formation patterns. Then it disappeared into the void just like that. His heaven sword 9 guides sword formation used the shadow sword as a guide. The shadow sword was hidden in the entire heaven and earth. The sword shadows were everywhere, and the sword aura could be gathered anywhere. It appeared in the void and fused with nothing. How could Long Yeli restrain it? Long Yeli's face was a little pale. He was clearly holding the shadow sword in his hand, but the shadow sword disappeared into thin air just like that. This caught him off guard and even made him feel like he was being toyed with. You're courting death. Long Yeli's speed wasn't any slower than Mu Yu. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Mu Yu and sent a palm strike towards Mu Yu's chest. Mu Yu's soul weapon went up and collided with Long Yeli. The two of them collided with each other purely with their physical bodies. The terrifying sound of the collision was like thunder, causing the souls of the human race to tremble in fear. Long Yeli had the bloodline of a true dragon. Although the concentration of the bloodline wasn't very pure, the true dragon bloodline made his body extremely strong. Compared to other demonic beasts, the descendants of a true dragon had an absolute advantage in terms of their physical bodies. Not to mention the self-cultivators whose physical qualities were originally inferior to demonic beasts. The reason why self-cultivators were powerful was that they were good at forging all kinds of magic treasures and powerful spells, which could make up for the lack of physical qualities. However, self-cultivators like Mu Yu who directly collided with Long Yeli with their physical bodies were really rare. The more Long Yeli fought, the more frightened he became. Mu Yu is only at the spirit severing stage, but his body was actually so strong. This wasn't inferior to many demonic beasts. It was really terrifying. This kind of person must die. Otherwise, when he grew up in the future, he would definitely be a disaster. When Mu Yu was fighting with Long Yeli, he didn't only rely on the power of Lian Kong's soul weapon. He also relied on the black and white spiritual energy in his body. The black spiritual energy could devour the damaged muscles, while the white spiritual energy could quickly repair the damaged areas. Every time his injuries were repaired, his physical qualities would become even stronger. This was also the reason why Mu Yu could compete with Long Yeli's physical body with his spirit-severing stage cultivation. However, if this continued, Mu Yu would actually be at a disadvantage, because he would definitely be exhausted one step earlier than Long Yeli, who was at the body integration stage. Big Earthworm, he has your bloodline in his body. Why can't I see how strong your physical qualities are? Could it be that you are a fake dragon? Xiao Shuai asked. Bah, I didn't give birth to him. What true dragon or fake dragon? Other than the period of weakness when I just turned into a dragon, when have you ever seen me injured? Long Tongue said disdainfully. Then your body must be harder than this kind of bug. Mu Yu, you can use the body of the big earthworm to beat him up. As long as you control it reasonably, you can combine the strength of your bodies together. Xiao Shuai said. Mu Yu's heart moved slightly. He could control Long Tongue's body, so naturally, he could also combine with Long Tongue. Long Tongue was a true dragon, so its body must be much stronger than Long Yeli's. All right, I've been unhappy with Bastard for a long time. Long Tongue was eager to give it a try on Mu Yu's wrist. Mu Yu's wrist moved slightly, and Long Tongue fused with his wrist, turning his arm into a green Long Tongue claw. Although Long Tongue's body was a plant, its body could not be treated as an ordinary plant. Previous chapter, next chapter, boom. Mu Yu, who had assimilated with the Long Tongue, once again clashed with Long Yeli. At the same time, a powerful dragon's might swept over from Mu Yu's arm. What? Long Yeli's face changed greatly. This dragon's might had actually exceeded the limits of his body's endurance. Under the pressure of this dragon's might, his blood flowed slowly, and for a moment, he was unable to condense his strength. His wrist bone was shattered by Mu Yu's punch, and his entire body was sent flying. Good heavens, so your pressure is actually so useful against the demon clan. If you had said so earlier, I wouldn't have been so aggrieved. Mu Yu rotated his wrist to strike the iron while it was hot. He did not say anything and followed up with another punch on Long Yeli's face. Long Yeli was shocked and furious at the same time. He stretched out his palm, wanted to block Mu Yu's fist. However, that pressure that made his heart palpitate appeared again, causing him to be unable to raise his palm. Mu Yu's fist landed on Long Yeli's palm, and together with Long Yeli's palm, it landed on Long Yeli's face. With the protection of the soul tool, Mu Yu fused with the long tongue. His entire combat strength rose by a level, causing the originally arrogant Long Yeli to be somewhat dazed. The aura of a true dragon. Damn it. Long Yeli was extremely furious. However, he still did not understand. Although a true dragon was able to make his heart palpitate, the current true dragon strength was not high enough to cause him absolute pressure. Just how did Mu Yu do it? Mu Yu was too lazy to explain. He continued to land punch after punch on Long Yeli's body. Long Yeli, a dignified body integration stage cultivator, was actually beaten to the point where he could not even fight back. This made him feel extremely humiliated. However, there was nothing he could do. After Mu Yu fused with the long tongue, that powerful pressure had severely restricted his performance. This caused the weak and impure true dragon's bloodline in his body to tremble incessantly. It could be said that his success was because of the true dragon's bloodline, and his failure was also because of the true dragon's bloodline. Bang! Long Yeli was directly smashed to the ground by Mu Yu's punch, creating a bottomless pit on the ground. At this moment, Long Yeli finally had the chance to escape from Mu Yu's punch. Using his body integration stage cultivation, he dodged Mu Yu's attack once again. The outcome of this battle had already been decided. Other than dodging, Long Yeli had no other choice. His demonic energy could not harm Mu Yu. Once he got close to Mu Yu, he would be restrained by the true dragon's aura on Mu Yu's body. He did not even have the ability to fight back. The dividing line was directly revealed. Very quickly, it moved another meter towards the demon race's side. The human race won. The human race's side erupted into loud cheers again. Even though the demon race had sent out a body integration stage cultivator, he was still defeated by Mu Yu. Mu Yu once again became the focus of everyone's attention. On the mountain peak in the distance, Gue Yezi and Gue Yeming stood there. They had been paying attention to Mu Yu's battle the entire time. Do you see the soul tool in that kid's hand? You should have seen the power of that soul tool. That is what we need to get our hands on, Gue Yezi said slowly. Chapter 628. Not bad. You seem to be much more powerful than ordinary alchemists. Helian Kong smiled as he floated over and patted Mu Yu's shoulder. It was the feeling of being hit by an ice cube again. Mu Yu really didn't like being patted on the shoulder by a soul. Helian Kong praised him every time, and whenever he was happy, he would pat Mu Yu's shoulder to show encouragement. Then, Mu Yu's body would feel cold. Senior's leg bone is still the best. Mu Yu shrugged helplessly. In fact, relying on the dragon vine and himself alone was not enough to defeat Long Yeli. Most of the power came from this bone. Quickly tell me, have alchemists now overcome the problem brought by the wood dregs? Otherwise, your agility is a bit too excessive. Helian Kong sized up Mu Yu, and then asked curiously, I just realized that your physique doesn't seem to be suitable to be an alchemist. I'm a battle-type alchemist. Now, alchemists are also divided into rescue-type alchemists and heroic battle-type alchemists. Mu Yu made up a lie. In any case, Helian Kong had no way to go out to investigate. Several thousand years had passed, and various techniques had emerged. Helian Kong had been trapped here all this time, and the outside world had long changed into a vast expanse of fields. So that's how it is. Helion Kong nodded, and only thought that he was ignorant and inexperienced. He didn't doubt Mu Yu's words, because the green bamboo peak vein master token in Mu Yu's hands couldn't be faked. Senior, have there been any news of people from the Gate of Hell in the past 2 days? Mu Yu asked. Helion Kong shook his head. It's not good for me to investigate Gue Yezi's territory, and I don't know why Gue Yezi guided his sect's younger generation to this demon island. They can't leave after entering. Isn't he pushing his own younger generation into a fire pit? This was indeed strange. It was reasonable to say that the people from the Gate of Hell had come to this demon island filled with souls, so they must have some kind of conspiracy. However, after 2 days, the people from the Gate of Hell hadn't made any move. It was as if they had disappeared without a trace. This was not in line with the style of the people from the Gate of Hell. Senior, aren't you worried that I won't be able to leave the demon island? But I didn't guide you here. Mu Yu slapped his forehead, speechless. Truly, speaking of the devil would appear. A sinister aura appeared behind Mu Yu, as though it wanted to intimidate Mu Yu. It intentionally landed on Mu Yu, causing Mu Yu to feel extremely uncomfortable. However, because Helion Kong was by Mu Yu's side, Mu Yu didn't feel much pressure. I thought you guys were hiding in your turtle hole and didn't dare to come out. Mu Yu turned around and looked at Gue Yiming. Courting death. Gue Yiming coldly snorted. He couldn't wait to slap Mu Yu to death and directly snatch the soul tool in Mu Yu's hand. However, Gue Yezi had already warned him that Helion Kong was not a person to be trifled with. Moreover, the souls on this island couldn't be refined by the Gate of Hell's cultivation method, so Gue Yiming restrained himself from making a move. Helion Kong stood beside Mu Yu. He floated in the air and looked down at Gue Yiming. They were both at the transcending tribulation stage, but Helion Kong's aura was far inferior to Gue Yiming's. Helion Kong, you better take care of your juniors. Don't always speak rudely. Gue Yezi indifferently glanced at Mu Yu, his eyes intentionally or unintentionally sweeping over the soul tool in Mu Yu's hand. You don't have to worry about my juniors. It's your own people who want to kill Mu Yu as soon as they meet. Do you really think I don't exist? Helion Kong fiercely glared at Gue Yiming, his tone filled with dissatisfaction. Gue Yezi smiled. Let's not talk about this for now. I came here today to discuss something with you. What is it? It's about Sea Fiend Royal City. Gue Yezi slowly said. Helion Kong looked at Gue Yezi in surprise. Sea Fiend Royal City? For the past few days, he had been thinking of a way to hide from Gue Yezi's spies and have Mu Yu sneak into Sea Fiend Royal City. He didn't expect Gue Yezi to bring it up first. Gue Yezi said, That's right. When enlightened Master Xianjizi gave you the key to Sea Fiend Royal City, I know you've always wanted Mu Yu to enter Sea Fiend Royal City and find a way to control the Spirit Sealing Pagoda. In the past, I've always opposed it, but now what? Now that you've led your own junior to Sea Fiend Island, you've thought things through? Helion Kong humped softly. He was no fool. Although this was also the result that he wanted to see, he had lived for several thousand years, after all, and had quite a good understanding of the Ghost Realm's children. For this Ghost Realm's children to change their minds so easily, there had to be a conspiracy. Enlightened Master Xianjizi turned Sea Fiend Royal City into his tomb. All of his legacies are inside. You can't let Mu Yu monopolize everything, can you? Gue Yezi said without changing his expression. So, you want your people to go in as well? Helion Kong raised an eyebrow. That's right. Enlightened Master Xianjizi said that if anyone comes to Sea Fiend Island in the future, his legacies can be obtained by fate. So we can let them in. Whoever has the ability to obtain Enlightened Master Xianjizi's legacies will depend on their luck, Gue Yezi said. Do you really think I'm stupid? Let your people from the Gate of Hell and my family's Mu Yu go in together? With your murderous aura, you can just kill Mu Yu directly. What's the point of talking about luck? Helion Kong scolded without any trace of politeness. Then what do you plan to do? Either let them go in together, or your Pill Cauldron School's juniors and my people from the Gate of Hell will be trapped on this island forever. Gue Yezi didn't panic at all. He knew that Hellion Kong had always wanted to leave Sea Fiend Island and free himself. However, if they couldn't come to an agreement, Gui Yezi would personally guard the entrance of Sea Fiend Royal City. Hellion Kong would also be helpless. It's very simple. Since you want to go in as well, then find someone from the Gate of Hell who has the same cultivation as Muyu and go in together. No one will be at a disadvantage. Hellion Kong said, I have to go in. Gui Yiming frowned. You're forbidden to go in. Hellion Kong rejected Gui Yiming without hesitation. Old man, do you really think you're someone important? I've been tolerating you time and time again because of Senior Gui Yezi's advice. If you don't know what's good for you, I have plenty of ways to deal with ghosts. I'll make you suffer so much that you'll wish you were dead. Gui Yiming's temperament was very violent. Normally, ghosts would be terrified when they saw him. Coming to this Sea Fiend Island with so many ghosts and spirits, he was still restrained. This wasn't his character at all. Hellion Kong's gaze turned cold. He suddenly stretched out his hand and grasped the air. Suddenly, there was an explosion in the air. Countless white lights swept over from the surroundings, transforming into a strong and powerful hand that directly grabbed at Gui Yiming. Gui Yiming snorted coldly. Waves of ghost energy surged out from his body. The aura of a transcending tribulation realm expert instantly met Hellion Kong's. However, his expression quickly changed because his ghost energy dissipated like snow when it came into contact with the large hand formed by the white lights. He didn't even have time to dodge before Hellion Kong firmly grabbed hold of his ghost energy. Who do you want to know what's good for them? Hellion Kong's illusory hand clenched tightly. Gui Yiming's face was filled with shock, anger, and pain. His bones creaked under Hellion Kong's grip. This was the first time he had been defeated by a ghost. Muyu was shocked. He didn't expect this unreliable soul senior to be so powerful. They were both transcending tribulation realm experts, but Hellion Kong only used one move to directly capture the arrogant Gui Yiming. Gui Yezi's expression darkened. When Hellion Kong made his move, he couldn't stop it because a soul couldn't stop another soul. Hellion Kong, let him go. Take care of your junior. If he dares to speak rudely to me again, I can't guarantee that I won't kill him. Hellion Kong waved his hand slightly and directly threw Gui Yiming away. Gui Yiming was heavily blasted into a small hill, covered by countless pieces of soil. Gui Yezi only glanced at Gui Yiming indifferently. He didn't even bother to lift his eyelids. He had already warned Gui Yiming, but Gui Yiming was still so arrogant. This could be considered a lesson for him. Your junior dares to speak nonsense, but you won't allow my subordinate to say a few words? Gui Yezi snorted coldly. My junior is under my protection. He can say whatever he wants, but not your junior. Hellion Kong stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking as if it was only right and proper. Muyu grinned. He realized that he was starting to admire this old man. He liked how protective he was. Hellion Kong secretly winked at Muyu. Muyu also gave him a thumbs up. So, you don't plan to cooperate? Gui Yezi asked. If you don't cooperate, I'll just kill your junior too. Let's see what you can do. If Hellion Kong didn't cooperate, then Muyu wouldn't be able to enter the Sea Demon Imperial City. Just like how Hellion Kong had attacked Gui Yiming, Gui Yezi could only watch from the sidelines. If Gui Yezi wanted to kill Muyu, Hellion Kong couldn't do anything. Souls couldn't attack souls, but souls could attack living people. Black soul power flashed around Gui Yezi and surged toward Muyu. He wanted to grab Muyu and force Hellion Kong to cooperate. At this moment, the soul tool in Muyu's hand suddenly glowed brightly and repelled Gui Yezi's soul power. You want to kill my subordinate? You're still too inexperienced. Hellion Kong floated to Muyu's side and smiled proudly. The soul tool in Muyu's hand flashed with a rich light. Muyu finally understood. No wonder Hellion Kong had given him such a precious soul tool. It turned out that it was to protect him. This old guy was really thoughtful. Gui Yezi didn't attack again. Hellion Kong's soul tool contained the powerful energy left behind by Taoist Master Shinjizi. This energy could defend against soul damage, so Gui Yezi couldn't hurt Muyu. Even if I can attack your subordinate, you should know that I still have the ability to stop him from entering the Sea Demon Imperial City, right? At worst, we'll fight to the death. A skull appeared in Gue Yezi's hand. That was his soul tool. Hellion Kong looked at the pitch-black skull and frowned slightly. He hadn't let Muyu directly barge into the Sea Demon Imperial City because he was afraid of Gue Yezi's soul tool. Taoist Master Xianjizi had given the key to the Sea Demon Imperial City to Hellion Kong, but he also gave the other 3 soul tools the ability to seal off the Sea Demon Imperial City. This was to keep each other in check and prevent one soul from acting alone. Chapter 629. 5,000 years ago, after Taoist Master Xianjizi sealed the Sea Demon King Yujiang, he personally remodeled the Sea Demon Royal City and made Hellion Kong, Gue Yezi, Bo Hong, and Mumong Fei the 4 people with the highest cultivation at that time to protect the Sea Demon Royal City. Among them, Hellion Kong controlled the power to open the Sea Demon Royal City, while the other 3 had the power to seal it. Any decision had to be made by the 4 of them. As long as Gue Yezi was at the edge of the Sea Demon Royal City, Muyu would not be able to get close. This matter was very troublesome. Hellion Kong and Gue Yezi both had the initiative, so neither of them could bypass the other and enter the Sea Demon Royal City alone. How about it? Have you thought it through? The soul tool in Gue Yezi's hand flashed with a cold light. Sure, but you can only send someone with the same cultivation as Muyu. Only then will it be fair. Hellion Kong looked at Gue Yeming, who was rushing out from the pile of rubble, and said arrogantly. Gue Yeming's expression was ferocious. He wanted nothing more than to kill Hellion Kong. He had never been in such a difficult situation before. Fine, then I will send someone in the body integration stage to go with him. Gue Yezi knew that Hellion Kong would not give in, so he did not want to push him too hard. Body integration stage? Muyu is only at the spirit severing stage. Hellion Kong said. He defeated a body integration stage demon clan member. Do you only see him as a spirit severing stage cultivator? Gue Yezi sneered. Hellion Kong shouted. He defeated the demon clan member because of my soul tool. Once my soul tool is used to open the Sea Demon Royal City, how can he fight a body integration stage cultivator? Gue Yezi said eerily. Looks like you don't understand this brat at all. You don't even have confidence in Jian Ing Chun Feng's disciple. Jian Ing Chun Feng? Who is Jian Ing Chun Feng's disciple? Hellion Kong's expression was slightly shocked. He turned to look at Muyu. You are Jian Ing Chun Feng's disciple? Muyu shrugged helplessly. The title of master was a bit too big. Even cultivators from 5,000 years ago had heard of him. Heavens, how can you be his disciple? Aren't you a member of our Danding sect? Hellion Kong was extremely shocked. I am Jianing and Chun Feng's disciple. However, I am also a member of the Pill Cauldron faction. My other master is a Pill Cauldron faction's Pill Cauldron faction. In short, I will explain it to you in detail in the future. Muyu felt that it would be too troublesome to explain it in detail. How can Jianing and Chun Feng still be alive? Isn't he from our time? And he's already fallen. Hellion Kong still found it hard to believe. Fallen? Muyu laughed in his heart. His master liked to live a simple life. At that time, he probably faked his death to hide his identity. I have obtained the inheritance of Jian Ing Chun Feng. Muyu thought about how his master had fallen into by Jie's hands and felt worried. He did not want to explain too much, nor did he want to reveal the secret of his master's immortal body. If he had obtained an inheritance, then everything would make sense. I see. No wonder you are so powerful as an alchemist. Hellion Kong nodded and then said confidently to Gue Yezi, Okay, you can send a body fusion stage cultivator to go with Muyu. Senior, I am Jianing and Chun Feng's disciple, but I am only a soul clone. Muyu hurriedly reminded. Hellion Kong had an envious look. Everyone wanted to be Jianing and Chun Feng's disciple. Unfortunately, he never accepted a disciple. Jianing and Chun Feng is an extraordinary person. If he can obtain his inheritance, I believe that you can deal with a body fusion stage cultivator while you are in the soul severing stage. In my time, Jianing and Chun Feng casually taught a young man sword techniques. Later on, that young man used his soul severing stage cultivation to kill a body fusion stage opponent. You have almost done it today. You have not disgraced Jianing and Chun Feng's name. Muyu blushed with shame. Helian Kong had already said this much. He was Jianing and Chun Feng's personal disciple. If he said that he could not do it, then it would be a disgrace to Jianing and Chun Feng. Gui Yezi glanced coldly at Muyu. Okay, then we will meet at the Sea Demon King City in 3 days. Goodbye. Gui Yeming stared at Muyu like a resentful snake and left with Gui Yezi without saying a word. When the two of them disappeared, Muyu said helplessly, Senior, you really think highly of me. Jianing and Chun Feng were quite powerful before they fell. Almost no one in the cultivation world dared to provoke him. You are really lucky to be able to obtain his inheritance. Helian Kong patted Muyu's shoulder again. Cold air invaded his body. Muyu laughed dryly. He did not deny his master's ability, but he did not want to die for nothing. He still defended himself. Senior, you said that the young man was just lucky. How could it be so easy for a soul-severing stage cultivator to kill a body fusion stage cultivator? Although I remember that he was indeed lucky, luck is also a part of strength. Don't worry, I have faith in you. Just like that young man, named by Liang Sheng, he became more and more famous in the cultivation world. It seems that he even founded a sect called the Shadowless Clan, which specialized in opposing the silhouette being at that time. Helian Kong said, while stroking his beard. Shadowless Clan? Muyu's mouth fell open. When he was in Qingshui City, Tian Yuehen spent money to hire Shadow Killer Qing Ming to assassinate him. At that time, Bai Yetian, who claimed to be from the Shadowless Clan, came to him and warned him. He also wanted Muyu to help him investigate Sikong Chiwen's secret. However, Muyu rejected Bai Yetian at that time because he did not like Bai Yetian's attitude. Senior, can you tell me more about the Shadowless Clan? Muyu remembered that Bai Yetian said that the cultivation world did not only have the strength on the surface. There were many hidden strengths that were not weaker than the 8 gates. Obviously, the Shadowless Clan was one of them. However, he did not expect that the founder of the Shadowless Clan was related to his master. Shadowless Clan? Let me think about it. It's just a small sect. It should start from the death of Jianing Chun Feng. At that time, someone paid a sky-high price for the Silhouette Being Organization to assassinate Jianing Chun Feng. The Silhouette Being Organization sent more than 100 top assassins to set up a trap for Jianing Chun Feng, but they were all killed by Jianing Chun Feng. In the end, Jianing Chun Feng was seriously injured and left the world. Helian Kong paused and thought for a while before continuing. When a young man, named by Liang Shang, heard that Jianing Chun Feng had passed away, he deeply hated the Silhouette Being Organization. So he created the Shadowless Clan to fight against the Silhouette Being Organization to avenge Jianing Chun Feng. However, the Silhouette Being Organization was not something he could afford to offend. Anyway, the Shadowless Clan soon disappeared from the cultivation world. They were probably killed by the Silhouette Being Organization. It was so long ago that I almost forgot about it. Muyu was stunned when he heard this. The Shadowless Clan didn't disappear. They were still alive and kicking, and they had been secretly plotting against the Silhouette Being Organization. It turned out that the Shadowless Clan was created by Liang Shang in order to avenge Muyu's master. Unfortunately, Jianing Chun Feng only took the opportunity to fake his death and live in seclusion. He had been living in seclusion for thousands of years. If it weren't for Yu Ming, he probably wouldn't have come out. No wonder Bai Yetian of the Shadowless Clan wanted to protect Muyu. It was because Muyu is Jianing Chun Feng's disciple. In fact, as long as Bai Yetian told Muyu about this, Muyu might have believed them. The Shadowless Clan had been developing for 5,000 years. It was not certain whether this strange force still followed the rules of its predecessors. After all, Bai Liangsheng had died a long time ago. It was hard to say whether his descendants had changed their original intention of opposing the silhouette being organization. In short, since they only sent a cultivator at the body integration stage to go in with you, then you don't have to be afraid of anything. If you don't like him, just kill him. Anyway, you are Jianing Chanfeng's disciple, so you should be able to do this. Helian Kong was very optimistic about Muyu. Muyu rubbed his temples. He felt a little headache. Where did Helian Kong get the confidence that Muyu could defeat a cultivator at the body integration stage? But at this moment, he had no choice but to take one step at a time. Against a cultivator at the body integration stage from the gate of hell, Muyu could rely on his cultivation technique to restrain him. In fact, he might not necessarily be at a disadvantage, but Muyu still didn't dare to be careless. During these 3 days, Muyu was still deducing the mysteries of the formation technique domain near the Sea Demon Royal City. If he could learn the formation technique domain, he would have a greater chance of facing Taoist Master Xian Jizi's formation technique test after entering the Sea Demon Royal City. As for the territorial war with a monster race, Muyu had already put it aside and let the other souls control the bone soldiers to fight. On the 4th day, Muyu arrived at the gate of the Sea Demon Royal City, as promised. When he arrived, the people from the Gate of Hell were already waiting for him. Gue Yezi just glanced at Muyu indifferently, while Gue Yeming's expression was very sinister, with a murderous look. Mu Mingfei and Bo Hong came with them. Mu Mingfei agreed with Helian Kong's method, but Bo Hong's expression wasn't good. He seemed to be very opposed to this matter, but he was persuaded by Gue Yezi. Helian Kong floated to the gate of the Sea Demon Royal City and said, "Who are you sending in?" "Gue Shiezi," Gue Yezi said. A cold young man stood out from the group of people from the Gate of Hell. This man's aura was only at the body integration stage, but he gave Muyu a dangerous feeling. Helian Kong frowned and glanced at Gue Shiezi, then looked at Muyu. He discovered that there seemed to be something different about Gue Shiezi's body, but he couldn't tell what it was. However, since they had already agreed, then he didn't have any thoughts of going back on his word. "Muyu, you have to be careful." Helian Kong took the soul tool that Muyu handed over and warned him. Muyu nodded. He also felt that there was something wrong with Gue Shiezi. The soul tool in Helian Kong's hand lit up with a white light. This white light turned into an azure light and then shot towards the vermilion gate of the Sea Demon Royal City. The gate was overflowing with light, and a 2-meter-tall mirror slowly appeared. This mirror was very strange. It showed the images of Muyu and the other people from the Gate of Hell. Only Helian Kong and the other souls couldn't be shown in the mirror. This mirror is the entrance that Taoist Xian Jizi set up. Only the living can approach it. You can go straight to the mirror. Helian Kong said. Chapter 630. Entering the Sea Demon Royal City. From afar, a magnificent palace came into view. Auspicious vapors rose, and the air was filled with rainbow-colored light. It was like walking into a land of immortals. A golden seal appeared above the palace, exuding an ancient light. The golden seal had a majestic aura that enveloped the entire palace, and the golden light sealed the palace within. The palace was a few hundred meters away from where Muyu came in. Around the palace were 8 stone pillars that reached the sky. Mysterious inscriptions were carved on the pillars, and each of the inscriptions was faintly flickering with white light, resonating with the golden seal above the palace. These 8 stone pillars were very thick, and it would take 5 people to wrap their arms around them. The pillars were about 30 meters tall, and there were a few statues at the top of the pillars. These statues were all majestic self-cultivators with glaring eyes and various magic treasures in their hands, as if they were about to shatter the void. Muyu looked at the road on the ground. The road to the palace was not flat, but crisscrossed stone bridges. On both sides of the stone bridges were fences carved from white jade. Below the stone bridges was a bottomless abyss, and there were gusts of heart-palpitating wind blowing from below. These stone bridges seemed to stretch across in a regular pattern, but they were also like a messy maze, and it was the only way to the palace. Gue Shiming also appeared beside Muyu. He also saw the scene in the distance and frowned slightly, as if he was thinking about something. These decorations were not the style of the demon race, but the style of the human race. It was obvious that Taoist Master Xianjizi had completely remodeled this place. Even the patterns on the stone bridges were of the human race. A strange power confined this place, making it impossible for people to fly. Muyu, I've heard a lot about you, Gui Shiming said indifferently. Muyu did not let down his guard for a moment. Helian Kong was blindly confident in him, but he did not have the confidence to defeat someone from the Gate of Hell who was at the unification stage. What are you people from the Gate of Hell doing here? Muyu asked calmly. Gui Shiming looked at Muyu and said, Do you know? The first thing the Ghost Lord told me to do was to kill you. You can't kill me, Muyu said simply. I'm not like those stupid fellows you met before. I've never looked down on you, so I don't plan to kill you. After all, we have no enmity, right? Gui Piping Life said calmly. Muyu didn't like people from the Gate of Hell. Even if they had no grudges against each other, Muyu felt that the world of cultivation would be much better if there were fewer people from the Gate of Hell in the world. People from the Gate of Hell would often kill others in secret in order to cultivate their own shameful techniques. The Threefold Palace had only warned them verbally about such things and never stopped them. This was because the people from the Gate of Hell would provide the Threefold Palace with soul power if they killed people. If that's the case, then whether or not we can obtain the inheritance of immortal Xianjizi is up to fate. Muyu walked straight towards one of the entrances of the stone bridge, not bothering to waste his breath on Gui Ziming. Gui Shiming didn't stop him. He just quietly looked at Muyu, his eyes flashing with a strange light. As soon as Muyu stepped onto the stone bridge, the scene in front of him suddenly changed. In a flash, he was actually in the air. The stone bridge under his feet also turned into an iron chain bridge that rippled with the wind. These iron chain bridges crisscrossed, but the two ends of the iron chain bridges were connected to a towering stone peak. The stone peak extended up from the abyss. The abyss below was bottomless. There was only a layer of white fog and some strange bird cries. Is this an illusion array? Muyu lightly touched the iron chain of the iron chain bridge. The array pattern on his hand surged and passed into the iron chain. The iron chain also reverberated with a layer of array pattern, bouncing off Muyu's array pattern. Muyu tried to pass the primal yin and yang qi into the iron chain. However, what surprised Muyu was that his primal yin and yang qi, which had always been successful, was actually repelled here. This was immortal Xianjizi's array technique domain. All the array patterns were self-contained. Muyu simply couldn't forcefully change these array patterns. It seemed that immortal Xianjizi's array, Dao, was really not something an ordinary array master could compare with. An array master who could seal the Sea Demon King, Yu Zhang's array technique domain, was probably on the same level as the 6 great array masters. Dad said that all the rules in the array technique domain were set by oneself. This means that I can't forcefully use the primal yin and yang qi to change the array technique here. I can only obediently break through the array. Muyu looked back and didn't see any trace of Gui Shiming. Gui Shiming gave Muyu a very strange feeling. He wasn't like the other people from the Gate of Hell who were filled with murderous intent. Instead, he seemed very deep and shrewd. However, he didn't reveal any hostility towards Muyu. This was very rare. He didn't think about what Gui Shiming would do. Instead, he focused his attention on the array before him. This array formation was very mysterious. Muyu had to find a right path to the palace to use it. He didn't know what kind of special array immortal Xianjizi would set up here. Since Helian Kong said that this was an inheritance that immortal Xianjizi had sealed away and that the fated person would obtain it, then the array here shouldn't be one that was specifically used to prevent outsiders from entering. However, as far as the eye could see, all he could see were iron chain bridges drifting in the air. The sound of iron chains clanking could be heard. He couldn't see the end of it, so he didn't know where the true focus was. Then what exactly did immortal Xianjizi want to test them on? Muyu walked over the wooden planks on the iron chain and arrived at the top of a narrow stone peak. This stone peak was very small, only about 5 square meters in size. The blue stone on top of it looked very ordinary. There were other iron chain bridges around it that led to different places. This is a formation domain. Then what are the rules of this domain? This question flashed through Mu Yu's mind. It should be the same as the Yao Ceiling Pagoda's domain, right? Little Shuai said. Normally, a person would only comprehend one domain. Then, the rules of this domain would be able to prevent everything from being forcefully changed. Mu Yu found a small pebble on the ground of the stone peak and kicked it with all his strength. The pebble was kicked away by him, but after a while, it returned to its original position. It feels like déjà vu. Mu Yu stared at the small pebble that had returned to him. He suddenly recalled the ethereal land that he had gone to when he sealed the 9 heavens sealing formation in his body. According to Xie Bulo, the ethereal land was a place where the 5 elements were in balance. Nothing could break the balance of the 5 elements there. It was a formation specifically used to resist Yumeng. It seemed that immortal Xian Jizi's domain was somewhat related to the ethereal land. However, knowing this was far from enough. There were no signs to guide him in this domain. There were only iron chain bridges. Mu Yu couldn't just walk around aimlessly. If I can deduce the rules of this formation domain, then can I take over this domain? Mu Yu pondered. No formation could be perfect. There were bound to be flaws. Even if the flaw was very small as the eye of a needle, it was still a flaw. A flaw in a formation would cause the patterns of the formation to fluctuate unstably. Then, where was the unstable rhythm of the iron chain bridge? The wind gently blew, and the sound of birds chirping could be heard from the bottom of the abyss. The sound of iron chains clanking could be heard. The white clouds in the sky slowly drifted, and the sun shone from the east. The warmth of the sun shone on his body, making him feel relaxed and happy. Mu Yu quietly sat cross-legged for 8 hours. Everything here seemed so natural. There was nothing out of the ordinary. It was as if he was on a viewing platform. Mu Yu slowly calmed his heart. His eyes were covered with black and white formation patterns. As the formation patterns surged, his perspective underwent a tremendous change. In his eyes, everything in nature was made up of formation patterns. The white clouds in the southwest corner would float by repeatedly every 15 minutes. The sounds of birds chirping in the northeast corner would alternate every 3 breaths. The iron chain at the bottom left would float at an angle of 30 degrees, and the wind in the east would change direction every hour. The highest realm of a formation master was that everything could be used as a formation base. In other words, everything in nature could be used as a formation base. The power of nature was the strongest formation base. Because it was inexhaustible, there was no need to worry about problems arising. This place was also filled with the power of nature. It was just that Taoist master Xianjizi had applied his formation domain on top of the power of nature, changing all the power of nature to form this illusory formation. Everything here was real, and everything was made up of formation patterns. Wasn't this the true law of the formation domain? Mu Yu stretched out a finger as if he had comprehended something. Formation patterns flickered on his fingertip. These formation patterns slowly simulated everything in this place, including the clouds in the sky, the surrounding iron chain bridge, and the gentle breeze that brushed past. He used his own comprehension to simulate this scene, but he always felt that something was missing. He felt that he had already simulated it to perfection. Then what was it that was missing? Gue Shiming also walked onto the stone bridge. The only difference was that the scene in front of Gue Shiming was completely different from Mu Yu's. The scene he saw was like hell on earth. Corpses were everywhere, and vengeful spirits were drifting away. As far as the eye could see, there was only a scarlet-red color, and the air was filled with a pungent smell of blood. He slowly walked in front of a small mountain of rotting corpses. Looking at these corpses, he nodded thoughtfully. Are these the people I killed? Following that, 6 shadows suddenly floated out from Gue Shiming's body. They slowly surrounded Gue Shiming. The aura of these shadows was actually not the slightest bit weaker than Gue Shiming. What is this place? One of the ghost shadows asked indifferently. Gue Shiming, where is Mu Yu? The other ghost shadows asked one after another. You guys are now my twins. You don't have to say too much. I know what I'm doing. Gue Shiming said indifferently. People from the Gate of Hell usually had twins. This was the strange part of their cultivation technique. And listening to Gue Shiming's meaning, he actually had 7 twins. Gue Shiming kicked away the corpse at his feet. He said indifferently, "As for where this place is, I think it's probably a place of opportunity." "Then why didn't you kill Muyu? The 7 of us are enough to deal with him." One of the ghost shadows said with a heavy, evil aura. Chapter 631. After Mu Yu and Gue Shiming entered the Sea Demon Imperial City, the scene they saw was completely different. It was as if they had entered a different world. This was the magic of Taoist master Xian Jizi's formation. In the so-called land of opportunity, different people had different opportunities. It was best to comprehend one's own opportunities through one's own Tao. At this moment, Mu Yu was in a basic domain. Although it was far from the domain power emitted by the subduing demon pagoda, it was still not to be underestimated. Mu Yu was still sitting cross-legged on the stone peak, feeling the rhythm of nature around him. He had been deducing the rules of this formation domain. His cultivation had not reached the crossing calamity stage, so he did not have the ability to communicate with the laws of heaven and earth. It was too difficult to directly comprehend the domain. He could only rely on his deduction ability to recognize the surrounding formation patterns. In Mu Yu's eyes, those formation patterns seemed to have a life of their own, jumping cheerfully. Mu Yu had seen his master use the power of nature to set up a powerful formation under the chaotic burial valley. He had always wanted to learn how to control the power of nature. At this moment, he was in the middle of a vast expanse of nature. The surrounding breeze, all kinds of wonderful sounds, made Mu Yu feel an indescribable sense of intimacy. The finger in front of Mu Yu used the formation patterns to draw the scene of this area, but he always felt that something was missing. Then, he suddenly understood what it was that was missing. The formation patterns he derived were missing himself in this area. The formation patterns in his hand jumped again. The formation patterns in his hand also deduced his own figure, and his own figure was also evolving into another him. Gradually, Mu Yu suddenly had a trace of comprehension. Every world always had its own rules. If he wanted to control a rule, he had to adapt to this rule. He tried to integrate his body and mind into this formation domain. The aura on his body also surged along with this formation domain. When the wind began to blow, he also let his consciousness drift along with the wind. The iron chains intertwined and swayed. His whole consciousness also gently swayed up and down. He thought of himself as a part of the formation technique domain. As he swayed along with the domain, he suddenly found that he seemed to be able to wander freely in this domain without any hindrance. When he deduced the rules of this domain, he seemed to have become a person of the domain. He had become the person who controlled this domain. Surprised, Mu Yu picked up the pebble on the ground that flew back after being kicked by him. Originally, the pebble should have been forced to return to its original position by the rules of this domain, but at this moment, the pebble did not break free from Mu Yu's hand. It seemed that the process of being moved by Mu Yu is also the power of this domain. So I can control my domain like this. Mu Yu was very surprised. With a slight movement of his mind, all of the iron chain bridges actually began to fall off and gradually reconnect in the air, forming a straight long bridge that led to the vast expanse of whiteness in front of him. Mu Yu, how do you know how to get out of this maze? Little Shuai asked in surprise. I deduced it. The formation technique is deduced from the 8 trigrams. As long as the 8 trigrams formation pattern is derived, all of the formation techniques can be broken. Although the formation technique domain cannot be broken by force using the chaotic yin and yang, it can be controlled by deduction. The formation pattern in Mu Yu's hand slowly moved. Doesn't that mean you've also learned the power of a domain? Dragon Tongue said in surprise. Big Earthworm, you're so stupid. This is not learning the power of a domain. This is controlling the domain that Xian Jizi set up in this place. Little Shuai corrected. What's the difference? Dragon Tongue still did not understand. Mu Yu understood Xian Jizi's domain, but he can't use it himself. Do you understand? Little Shuai said. Little Shuai was right. Moreover, this was only the tip of the iceberg of Xian Jizi's domain. It was very likely that this was a test that Xian Jizi deliberately set up. Muyu wanted to learn the power of a domain and the power of nature. Therefore, after he walked on the stone bridge, there was an area full of formation patterns. Xian Jizi's true domain was broad and profound. It was far from what Muyu could fully control at the moment. The crisscrossing iron chain bridge had been completely transformed into a straight path by Muyu. Needless to say, as long as he went through this path, he would be able to get out. Muyu did not hesitate to walk along the iron chain bridge. His figure gradually disappeared into the boundless fog. However, not long after he left, Gue Shiming suddenly appeared on the iron chain bridge. He looked around and looked at Muyu's gradually disappearing figure. He smiled coldly. Sure enough, you didn't disappoint me. A mass of black ghost energy appeared in Gue Shiming's hand. The black ghost energy wrapped around a skull. At this moment, it was gently swaying. A cyan that was constantly pulsating, becoming weaker and weaker. Xian Jizi set up different opportunities for different people. Fortunately, we have Senior Gue Shiming's soul tool. One of the ghosts looked at the soul tool in Gue Shiming's hand with admiration. Generally speaking, it was impossible to go from one's own land of opportunity to another person's land of opportunity. However, Gue Yezi was not an ordinary person. He had been studying the inheritance left behind by Taoist Xian Jizi for 5,000 years, and it was not just for show. Now you know why I didn't kill him immediately. Gue Shiming coldly snorted and followed Muyu. Muyu walked along the iron chain bridge while comprehending the formation patterns of the entire domain. His hand gently touched the iron chain. His heart was clear. Black and white formation patterns appeared in his eyes. Then, the iron chain bridge trembled and two paths appeared in front of him. He smiled and turned to the right iron chain bridge and disappeared into the boundless fog. After a moment, Gue Shiming also walked to the intersection. The soul tool in his hand showed a cyan light that indicated the left path. Gue Shiming frowned. Just now, he clearly saw Muyu turn to the right iron chain bridge. However, why did the soul tool show Muyu's figure on the left? Is there a problem with the soul tool? One of the ghosts asked. Gue Shiming's soul tool will not have a problem, Gue Shiming said in a low voice. Then, should we go to the right or the left? The six ghosts floated around Gue Shiming. Gue Shiming pondered for a moment. This is Xian Jizi's domain of formation. What you see may not be true. Go to the left. Gue Shiming stepped onto the left iron chain bridge. Muyu was still minding his own business. Every time he walked a certain distance, the iron chain bridge in front of him would diverge. The iron chain bridge would no longer be straight, but would instead have an arc or even a bend. However, Muyu always knew which direction to go and did not hesitate when he encountered a fork. He had already walked continuously for 6 hours. Muyu's speed was not fast or slow. He always maintained a suitable speed. The iron chain bridge would also diverge in the range of Muyu's vision. Even when it diverged, it appeared very natural. There was no feeling of abruptness. Gue Shiming followed the guidance of the soul tool. After walking a certain distance, he would always see Muyu's figure. After that, Muyu would turn to another path. The path that the soul tool was pointing to was always different from the path that Muyu had taken. This made him even more certain that what he saw was not true. The iron chain bridge in front of him once again split into two paths. Muyu's figure disappeared on the right iron chain bridge. When Gue Shiming reached the fork, the soul tool pointed to the left as usual. Gue Shiming felt a little strange. This domain of formation was beyond his understanding. Because this was not a place that was specially set up for him, he had no way of determining whether it was true or false. He could only rely on the guidance of the soul tool to chase after Muyu's footsteps. Since the soul tool was pointing to the left, then Gue Shiming did not hesitate and stepped onto the middle iron chain bridge. But after walking a certain distance, he was shocked to find that the iron chain bridge that he was walking on had a break. It was just a break. The iron chain bridge in front of him had a break in the air. The iron chain seemed to have extended halfway and suddenly merged into the void. Even the wooden planks under his feet had disappeared, and in front of him was a vast expanse of white fog. There was no way out. "What's going on?" a ghost asked puzzledly. Gue Shiming also felt that something was wrong. He had followed the Soul Tool's guidance all the way here. He was always able to see Muyu's figure. But just now, Muyu had clearly disappeared on this path. Why was there no trace of him now? What you see is not necessarily true. The Soul Tool is pointing to Muyu in front. It's definitely not wrong. Gue Shiming walked to the break. If his guess was not wrong, the road in front should be invisible. He carefully stepped towards the break in front. He originally thought that he would be able to step on the invisible solid wooden planks. However, he did not expect that he would actually step on empty air. If he was not prepared, he was afraid that he would have directly fallen into the vast abyss below. In this place, one cannot fly. Who knew what would happen if one fell down? But Gue Shiming definitely did not think that it would be a fun thing to do. There really is no road in front, Gue Shiming said in a deep voice. But the Soul Tool is pointing to Muyu in front. A ghost said, "Gue Laochi, your souls can fly here. Go ahead and take a look at the situation. Then come back and tell me the situation." Gue Shiming said. One of the ghosts floated out and very quickly disappeared into the vast expanse of white fog. He only left for about a quarter of an hour before returning. He said, "There is still an iron chain bridge in front, but it's split into two. Furthermore, I also saw that brat's figure. He disappeared on the left iron chain bridge in front." "Strange. How did he go over there?" a ghost asked. Gue Shiming felt that the situation was getting more and more fishy. His current situation was very awkward because he was the leader of the Seven Sons. However, he could not move forward in this place. The other 6 ghosts could follow him. Right now, he had to make a decision. Should he let his 7 sons follow Muyu, or should they go back the way they came? "The 6 of you go follow Muyu. Remember, if he goes to the left, you guys go to the right," Gue Shiming instructed. "Then what about you?" one of the ghosts asked. "I'll take the Soul Tool and go back the way we came. I'll take the other road just now. After you guys follow Muyu out of this domain, I'll be able to follow your aura out." Gue Shiming took the Soul Tool and turned back. Chapter 632. The people of the Gate of Hell were trained in pairs since young. When the time came, the two would fight to the death, and the loser would become the tool of the other. This was called a twin. A person of the Gate of Hell originally only had one twin, but Gue Cherishing Life was clearly not a simple person. He actually had 6. Moreover, these 6 twins all had their own consciousness. Unlike the other twins who could only carry out orders unconditionally, this was quite abnormal. Gue Cherishing Life made his 6 twins chase after Muyu, while he himself took the Soul Tool and stepped on the other iron chain bridge. The 6 twins followed the iron chain bridge they saw just now and quickly floated forward and found the other end of the iron chain bridge. Gue Laochi just said that Muyu disappeared on the iron chain bridge on the left, so the 6 twins did not hesitate to choose the iron chain bridge on the right and continued to move forward. Sure enough, after floating for a while, they saw Muyu slowly walking in front of them. They restrained the hostility in their hearts and did not beat the grass to scare the snake. After following Muyu's footsteps for another half an hour, another fork appeared. Muyu stepped on the iron chain bridge on the right, and they stepped on the left this time. But this time, it was very strange, because while they were floating, the iron chain bridge in front of them suddenly split into 3 paths, and Muyu's figure disappeared on the iron chain bridge in the middle. "What's going on? Which path should we take now?" Gue Laochi asked in a deep voice. There were 3 forks in the road, and Muyu took the middle road. According to the seeing is not believing method just now, they should choose a different path for Muyu, but at this moment there were 2 different paths. "It seems like we can only split up," Gue Laochi proposed. "No, we have already separated from Gue Cherishing Life. We can't split up again." Gue Laochi shook his head and said, "If we don't split up, then which path should we take?" Gue Laochi asked. The iron chain bridge here was also very strange to the twins. They were surrounded by a vast expanse of white fog, and they couldn't see where the iron chain bridge led to. Gue Lao Air pondered for a moment, then said, "We will split into two groups. Lao San and Lao Si. You two will follow me and take the left path. The others will take the right path. We are very familiar with each other's aura. Once we discover anything abnormal, we will retreat." After a pause, Gue Lao Air felt that he was too suspicious. No matter how powerful Mu Yu was, he was just a spirit-severing stage cultivator. The six twins all had body integration stage cultivation base. What could happen? Although Gue Xianyue had mentioned that Mu Yu's cultivation technique was very strange, Gue Han had relied on his absolute strength to trap Mu Yu back then. Thus, there was no need to worry too much. The six twins split into two groups and stepped onto the iron chain bridges on the left and right of the three-way road at the same time. Soon, they disappeared into the iron chain bridges again. Not long after the six twins left, Mu Yu slowly turned back from the middle iron chain bridge. "You guys didn't stay in your own place of opportunity, but still barged into my place of opportunity. I really have to properly entertain you guys." Mu Yu slightly smiled. Xiao Shui leisurely laid on Mu Yu's shoulder. "Let's prepare a few surprises for them." "Surprises?" "Of course." Mu Yu's hand lightly drew an array pattern. The iron chain bridge on the middle road had already disappeared. He then stepped onto the iron chain bridge on the left. To deal with this kind of fellows, one had to separate them one by one, and then defeat them one by one. Gue Shiming frowned. The more he walked, the more he felt that something was wrong. Because at this moment, the soul tool that Gue Shitsi gave him actually indicated that Mu Yu was on this road. Just an hour ago, the soul armament was clearly pointing in a different direction. There's something strange about this place. Gue Shiming stopped. Just now, the iron chain bridge had cut off his path, so he had no choice but to choose to separate from his six twins. But the more he walked forward, the less he could sense the six twins. If he continued to walk, he might lose the aura of the other six twins. The Gate of Hell's battle strength relied heavily on the twins, especially Gue Shiming, who had six twins. Losing the twins would have a great impact on him. But no matter how great the impact was, he was still a body fusion stage cultivator. Even if he faced Mu Yu alone, he still had the confidence to defeat Mu Yu. But the current situation was whether he should continue to follow the Soul Tool's instructions to find Mu Yu or return to call the six twins back. Gue Shiming pondered over and over again, and finally decided to continue forward. He needed to find Mu Yu. This time, he did not plan to secretly follow Mu Yu. Instead, he wanted to directly capture Mu Yu and force him to bring him out of this place of opportunity. He had just walked a few steps when he saw Mu Yu's figure in front of him. Mu Yu had been standing there, as if he had been waiting for a long time. "You're a bit slow." Mu Yu lazily raised his head and looked at Gue Shiming. Gue Shiming stared at Mu Yu and said indifferently, "It seems that I still underestimated you. Had you been waiting for me?" Mu Yu leaned on the railing of the iron chain bridge, looked at the white fog in the distance, and said leisurely, "I'm very curious. Why didn't you stay in your own place of opportunity to comprehend your own opportunity? Why did you come to my place of opportunity?" Gue Shiming's purpose in coming to Sea Demon Royal City this time was not for the so-called opportunity at all. He was here for one thing. However, he did not want to tell Mu Yu. Instead, he replied, "I came to your place of opportunity to let you bring me out of this maze." "You're so sure that I'll bring you out of this maze?" Mu Yu looked at Gue Shiming with amusement. "You have no choice." Gue Shiming approached Mu Yu step by step. The powerful aura of the unification stage on his body suddenly covered Mu Yu. But when his imposing aura fell beside Mu Yu, a gust of wind suddenly blew through the white fog around them. That insufferably arrogant, imposing aura was blown away like snowflakes, drifting outside the iron chain bridge and leaving in a leisurely manner. Gue Shiming's face sank. "It seems that I still have a choice," Mu Yu said unhurriedly. "Oomph." Gue Shiming suddenly exploded. He could not fly here, But even if he was running, his speed was still inconceivably fast. He directly rushed towards Muyu, wanting to grab Muyu. But he was not able to run more than a few steps, because at this moment, the iron chain bridge around him had already begun to shake. The iron chain bridge in front of him suddenly disappeared, directly stepping on air. If he did not react quickly, he was afraid that he would directly fall into the endless abyss. Kacha! The wooden planks of the iron chain bridge had already cracked layer by layer. Like rotten wood, it extended from both ends to Gue Shiming's feet. Gue Shiming's face changed slightly. Suddenly, a strong suction force came from under his feet, wanting to suck him into the abyss. The soul armament in his hand trembled. Gue Shiming's soul armament emitted an incomparably tyrannical soul power, promptly stabilizing his body. It's a pity that you didn't fall. Muyu shook his head. From the boundless white fog, countless iron chains suddenly jumped out, whistling as they slashed towards Gue Shiming. Gue Shiming's ghostly aura surged out from his body, sweeping away all of the iron chains. The iron chains smashed onto his body with a walla sound, but they could not hurt him at all. All of them were blocked by him. Is this all you've got? Gue Shiming stepped on the soul armament under his feet. The soul armament did not let him fall, but also made him unable to move. What about you? If you want to kill me, why don't you have a good time? Muyu could not hurt Gue Shiming, even with the help of the runes here. Gue Shiming's cultivation was too high. As you wish. Gue Shiming's eyes narrowed. His entire body followed the iron chain and jumped high up. The tip of his feet touched the iron chain, quickly approaching Muyu. Although he could not fly here, he could still borrow the strength of the iron chain, as nimble as the mortal world Shingon. The Mu Ling sword in Muyu's hand slashed. Countless vine leaves appeared and wrapped around the iron chain. Along the iron chain, Gue Shiming borrowed the strength of the iron chain. At the moment when Gue Shiming's foot landed, the vine leaves exuding a pure death aura wrapped around his foot. Gue Shiming had already been prepared for these strange vine leaves. He stiffly twisted his body in the air, and the soul armament in his hand blasted out soul power, smashing all the vine leaves. The souls on the Demon Island were not afraid of Muyu's death aura, because they were not dead. Therefore, the soul power of the soul armament made Muyu helpless. Muyu moved the iron chain away from himself to prevent Gue Shiming from approaching again. The two people confronted each other in the air. No one made a move because they could not take each other down. You can actually control these iron chains. Gue Shiming was somewhat surprised. Like I said, this is the place of my opportunity. Once I obtain my opportunity, this place will be under my control. Muyu, through deduction, comprehended the opportunity that Taoist Master Xian Jizi arranged for him. As long as he followed the rules of the formation domain here, he would know how to control this opportunity. He used the iron chain bridge to create a fork in the road. In fact, it was all to confuse Gue Shiming. He knew that Gue Shiming was very difficult to deal with. His body was also quite strange. When he saw Gue Shiming's 6 twins through controlling this domain, he understood that he could not defeat Gue Shiming, so he designed them to separate. As for the 6 twins, Muyu had been arranging a maze for them to wander around. Gue Shiming thoughtfully nodded. So you also know how to get out? I know, but I will not tell you. Muyu simply said. Gue Shiming coldly smiled. I don't need you to tell me. I just need you to know. A monstrous ghost fog spread out from his body and instantly enveloped Muyu. This ghost fog was contaminated with soul power in order to deal with Muyu's pure death aura. Gue Shiming had already floated and landed in front of Muyu. He can actually fly? Muyu raised his eyebrows, and the formation under his feet flashed. He had already teleported, but the surrounding ghost aura blocked him. If I don't act, do you really think I am as stupid as the others? You want to deceive me with this kind of insignificant skill? Gue Shiming faintly smiled. Chapter 633. Muyu was once again trapped in the thick ghost fog. All of Gue Shiming's actions just now were just a pretense. He just wanted to take the opportunity to trap Muyu. This was a land of opportunity. It had its own domain rules. Muyu had deduced these rules and could reasonably use them. But Gue Shiming did not understand this domain at all. He could actually violate the rules here. Do you want to know why I was not affected by your land of opportunity? Gue Shiming floated in the air and looked down at Muyu. His tone was full of ridicule and a sense of superiority. He thought that Muyu would be very surprised, but Muyu's reaction was very calm. I don't want to know, Muyu simply said. Muyu never expected to be able to easily trap Gue Shi. There was a Gue Xiao within the ghost sect. This guy was very famous when he was alive. Although he was forced to guard this island after his death, his methods were very powerful. He was able to secretly guide the other ghost sect members to smoothly come to this demon island. How could he be so simple? After the people from the Gate of Hell came to this island, they began to hide. There was definitely something fishy going on. Before entering the Sea Demon King City, Gue Shiming must have told Gue Shiming a lot of things he had investigated. Otherwise, how could Gue Shiming come to Muyu's land of opportunity? Gue Shiming did not expect Muyu to respond like this. He clenched his hand, and the ghost fog around him was gathered together and condensed into a long scarlet axe. The axe exuded a strong smell of blood, revealing a ferocious, murderous aura. Perhaps the number of resentful souls that died under this axe was countless. I'll give you one more chance. Take me out of this domain immediately, or I'll kill you and control your soul to get out of this domain. Gue Pei Ming's long axe streaked across the sky with a red light, enchanting and biting cold. There is only one way to get out, and with your character, you won't try it. Muyu stretched out his hand and gently brushed away the ghost fog. His body flashed with a faint white light. This white light was fleeting, but always able to timely sweep away all the ghost fog. Tell me about it. Gue Shiming pointed his axe at Muyu. Blood was about to drip down from the edge of the axe, but the blood circled around the blade and did not drip down. Repent. Muyu mockingly looked at Gue, cherishing his life. Gue Pai Ming did not get angry. Instead, he sneered and said, Repentance. Every time I kill someone, I am repentance. It is through repentance that I obtain my cultivation. Killing and repenting, I won't leave either one behind. This is the difference between you and me, Muyu said. The difference between us is that I can kill you. Gue Pai Ming couldn't understand what Muyu was talking about. His face showed a trace of ridicule. The long axe in his hand was raised high. With endless killing intent, he chopped down at Muyu. Muyu didn't dodge. He didn't even move. It was as if he had given up on resisting and allowed Gue Pei Ming to chop him in half. Chi! There was no blood splattering. Muyu's figure was like a piece of paper. He was cut in half by the long axe dripping with blood. A white light appeared at the cut and quickly repaired all the wounds. What? Gue Pai Ming was shocked. He looked at the calm Muyu and found it hard to believe. His opponent was clearly chopped in half by him. But at the critical moment, he was restored to his original state. This was really puzzling. Do you know what Taoist Master Xian Jizi's domain is? Muyu asked with interest. Taoist Master Xian Jizi was a person who comprehended a domain. His domain was to prevent things from being forcibly changed, including human life. Gue Pai Ming coldly snorted. I don't care what Taoist Master Xian Jizi's domain is. I only know that you will die today. The long axe's blood chi overflowed and once again smashed towards Muyu. Muyu stood on the iron chain bridge and looked at the area shrouded in Gue Pai Ming's ghost chi. Gue Pai Ming was trying to kill Muyu by any means possible. However, Gue Pai Ming didn't know that this land of opportunity had long been completely controlled by Muyu. He was the real Muyu here. When do you think he'll realize that the person he's trying to kill is actually just an illusion created by an array pattern? Xiao Shui laughed. I hope he and the other 6 twins have fun here. Muyu also laughed, and the other 6 twins who cherished their lives also angrily wanted to kill the illusion he had created. How are we going to get out of this land of opportunity? Xiao Shui asked curiously. Muyu just laughed and walked along the iron chain bridge behind him. Soon, he disappeared from the iron chain bridge. However, Not long after Muyu left, ghost chi gushed out from the place where Muyu was standing and gradually turned into the appearance of Gue Pai Ming. Gue, cherishing life, looked coldly at the ghost chi that he had created in the distance. Another Gue, cherishing life, was killing the wooden feather illusion that was created by the formation pattern. Muyu, do you really think I can't see that it's just an illusion created by an array pattern? Since you want to play so much, then let's play to our heart's content. Gue Pai Ming smiled sinisterly and then turned into ghost chi again and disappeared. The Demon Island was divided into two halves by the demarcation line. The east side was the territory of the souls of the human race, and the west side was the territory of the souls of the demon race. The Sea Demon King City was located in the east side. The subduing demon pagoda that sealed the Sea Demon King Yujiang was originally located in the center of the Demon Island. It was the territory of the human race, but was seized by the demon race. Therefore, the human race had always wanted to take it back. At this moment, it was already late at night. The bright moon illuminated the entire sky. Long Xingyun and the others stood under the subduing demon pagoda and looked at the glowing green pagoda in amazement. Although this pagoda belonged to the human race, it was able to seal the Sea Demon King Yujiang inside. Even Long Xingyun, who looked down on the human race, had to admit that this pagoda was powerful. Boss Lu and the others were also here. Their holy road originally led to the human race's territory, but after realizing the current situation on the Demon Island, Seahorse Tao Tao chased after them and opened up another path for them to the west side of the Demon Island. Therefore, they were delayed for a few days. Young Master Xingyun, did you really not see Qiao Shui? Boss Lu asked in a deep voice. Long Xingyun and the others looked at each other, and a strange light flashed in their eyes. Then Long Xingyun replied, We saw Qiao Shui and Muyu together, but then we encountered the mermaid demon. That kid actually abandoned Qiao Shui and ran away alone. Qiao Shui was also taken away by the mermaid demon. Impossible. Muyu would never abandon Qiao Shui. Boss Lu shook his head and said. Boss Lu knew that Muyu had given his teleportation jade to Qiao Shui in the second layer of heaven, allowing Qiao Shui and the White Ape Demon King to leave the second layer of heaven. This alone was enough to prove that Muyu would not do such a thing. You may know a person for a long time without understanding his true nature. Boss Lu, you must always remember that you are a demon and Muyu is not. Long Yeli snorted coldly. Boss Lu was very angry. He vaguely guessed that Qiao Shui's disappearance was related to Long Xingyun. Long Xingyun had always coveted the true dragon bloodline. Now that Long Tongue was by Muyu's side and Qiao Shui and Muyu had a special relationship. If Qiao Shui was by his side, Qiao Shui would definitely stop Long Xingyun from doing anything to Muyu. Boss Lu wanted to reprimand Long Xingyun's ambition, but he was not a subordinate of the Azure Dragon King. Long Xingyun's status in the Azure Dragon dynasty was very high, and he could not afford to offend him. Qiao Shui will be fine. Boss Lu, I think you should study this Yao Ceiling Pagoda and tell us how to enter it. How to save the Siren King. Long Xingyun said in a commanding tone. He had become the backbone of the demon race here. Boss Lu swallowed his anger and did not refute. He had been seriously injured by Gue Yiming and had not recovered yet. Without his cultivation, he was not a demon of the Azure Dragon dynasty, so Long Xingyun did not take him seriously. There were 6 leaders of the demon race. Other than the Bull Demon King who had lost to Muyu, there was also the Tyrant Whale, the Wild Water Shark, the 9-headed Cloud Bug, the Sea-shaking Violet Snake, and the Lightning White Gull. Our souls can't get close to the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. We've studied this pagoda for thousands of years and still can't figure out its secrets. It's up to you, juniors. The Bull Demon King patted Boss Lu's shoulder. I'm not your junior. I've said enough. I'm from the same generation as you. I'm older than you. I'm old enough to be your grandfather. Boss Lu was annoyed. The Bull Demon King scratched the back of his head innocently. I forgot about that again. Sorry, you were in the second layer of heaven. We didn't visit each other, did we? Boss Lu could not be bothered with the Bull Demon King. He approached the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. This pagoda could not be seen during the day. It could only be seen at night. The green light shone on him, making him feel as if his injuries were slowly healing. Boss Lu circled around the Yao ceiling pagoda and carefully touched the glowing green pagoda. There was a force condensed on the pagoda that rejected him. He shook his head and said, "This is the power of a realm. We can't open it with our abilities. Only monsters at the level of Lord White Ape can resist the power of a realm. Is there no other way?" Long Xingyin was not satisfied with this answer. Boss Lu stroked his beard and his eyes shone. "To open this pagoda, we need the power of formation, Master Xianjizi of the human race. But according to you, this force is sealed in the Sea Demon King City. We know all this. Can you tell us something we don't know?" Long Xingyun said impatiently. Boss Lu was not happy with Long Xingyun's tone, but he held back his anger and said, "Lord White Ape left me something before he left. It can help the Sea Demon King escape. But we have to discuss with the human race how to enter the Yao Ceiling Pagoda." "Discuss with the human race? In your dreams?" Long Xingyin snorted. He had always looked down on the human race. He thought the human race dominated the 3 continents only because of luck. Boss Lu said, "The Yao Ceiling Pagoda is not just used to seal the Sea Demon King. We can only get what we want by cooperating with the humans. The White Azure Ancestor said that we came here not just for the Siren King." Long Xingyin frowned. "What other secrets does the Yao Ceiling Pagoda have? Why didn't you tell us earlier?" Chapter 634. A gentle breeze blew past, and the iron chain bridge made a rustling sound. There was no iron chain bridge in front of Mu Yu, but every time he took a step forward, an iron chain bridge and wooden planks would extend out from under his feet. "That guy seems to be a bit smarter than the few Japanese people we've met before." Little Shuai looked back from time to time. His IQ is indeed higher than the other Japanese people, but no matter how powerful he is, it's useless. In my land of opportunity, all the roads are created by me. Mu Yu gently stepped on the iron chain bridge in front of him, and the iron chain bridge in front of him began to split apart, and Mu Yu directly turned to the iron chain bridge on the right. "Let's leave this place." Little Shuai found that Gue Shiming behind him was like a dogskin plaster that he couldn't shake off no matter what, and was a little impatient. "If we leave now, he will also find a way to leave. I don't have the confidence to defeat him outside." Mu Yu shook his head and said, "This is his land of opportunity." Mu Yu used his own comprehension to deduce the rules here, and has already grasped how to use the power of nature. He also vaguely touched the threshold of the field of array techniques, which is a very terrifying achievement, because the power of domain can only be controlled by great ascension stage cultivators, and Mu Yu is now only a spirit-severing stage cultivator. This is already quite a rare, heaven-defying talent in the cultivation world. "Camouflage doesn't work on that guy. Then what should we do?" Long Tongue yawned. Mu Yu pondered for a moment, then suddenly raised his head and smiled. "Who said that camouflage doesn't work on that guy?" He once again stepped on 2 iron chain bridges and disappeared on the iron chain bridge on the left. Not a moment later, Gue Shiming also appeared at the fork. He looked at Mu Yu's back as he walked on the iron chain bridge on the left. According to his experience of tracking Mu Yu, when Mu Yu's figure disappeared on a road, the soul tool would definitely point to another road. But this time, the soul tool directly pointed to the iron chain bridge on the left, which is obviously a bit wrong. Gue Pimming narrowed his eyes. The reason why he was still restraining himself from killing Mu Yu was because he did not know how to leave. As long as he stared at Mu Yu's figure and continued to waste time with Mu Yu, he believed that Mu Yu would definitely reveal the way out. After a moment of thought, he finally decided to take the left bridge and follow the guidance of the soul armament to track down Mu Yu. However, a wisp of ghostly aura separated from his body and rushed towards the right bridge. Gue, cherishing his life, was actually very suspicious. He always knew that Mu Yu was misleading the way forward. Therefore, every time he encountered a fork, he would release a wave of ghost chi. At this moment, he had already released countless ghost chi. Almost all the roads that Mu Yu had created had been walked once. However, After another hour, Gui Zhenming's pupils suddenly shrank and his face turned gloomy, because he once again saw the ghostly fog from before. Inside, he used the ghost fog to create himself, and he was trying his best to kill the Mu Yu created by the formation patterns. Have I reached the starting point? Gui, cherishing his life, frowned. He looked at the soul tool in his hand and discovered that the soul tool was still pointing to Mu Yu to walk in front. He hesitated for a long time and continued to walk forward. This time, there was no turning and no fork. After walking for an hour, he once again saw the ghostly fog that he had created, and the soul tool was still pointing to Mu Yu to be in front. Gui, cherishing his life, clenched his fist. He did not expect that he would still fall into Mu Yu's trap, even though he was so careful. Haha, Deadwood Daddy's mirror image array had trapped me for a long time. Mu Yu laughed from aside. Mu Yu had already secretly set up the mirror image array while walking. No matter where the mirror image array went, it would eventually return to the starting point. Mu Yu made use of Gui, cherishing his life's suspicious nature, and deliberately lured him into his mirror image array. Otherwise, it would be impossible to shake him off. As for why Gui, cherishing his life soul tool, kept pointing to the front, that was because Mu Yu was just outside the mirror image array. No matter where Gui, cherishing his life, walked, the mirror image array would always point to the front. So the soul tool would not make a mistake. All right, let's go out. Mu Yu clapped his hands and turned around to set up another mirror image array. Then he jumped into the endless white abyss. The way out was actually under their feet, but because they could not fly here, everyone was afraid of falling to their deaths. Little did they know that falling down was the way out. The mountain wind blew fiercely on his body. Mu Yu's body quickly fell, and his entire body seemed to jump into water. A ripple appeared in the air. Waves of ripples flashed, and Mu Yu stepped on solid ground. He turned around and looked behind him. Behind him was still that crisscrossing stone bridge. But Mu Yu had already crossed this bridge. He couldn't help but admire Taoist Master Xian Jizi's methods. Taoist Master Xian Jizi already knew that only humans could enter Sea Demon King City. So he set up different places of opportunity for different people. That was a kind of test, but also a kind of opportunity, whether one could cherish it or not depended on themselves. After crossing the stone bridge, what came into view was that magnificent palace. Sea Demon King's palace was luxurious but dignified. Compared to the human emperor's palace, it had a trace of calmness and grandeur. Even after so many years, the passage of time did not seem to have left any mark on it. But there were still tall and sturdy stone pillars around the palace. After walking closer, he discovered that these pillars were made of a kind of volcanic rock from the bottom of the sea. There was still some rock mud left on top of them. The statues of cultivators on top of these 8 pillars looked mighty and overbearing. They were definitely placed there by Taoist Master Xian Jizi. But he didn't know what mysteries these stone pillars had. Mu Yu slowly walked to the bottom of the stone pillars and sized up the carvings on top of the stone pillars. He discovered that these were the inscriptions that he was familiar with. There were inscriptions rippling in the surroundings. The white inscriptions flowed between the stone pillars like a stream of water. Every inscription was the source and destination of this stream of water. Strictly speaking, the inscriptions used to set up the formation didn't have any specific meaning. The meaning they represented had to be understood by oneself. So, if Mu Yu wanted to decipher these inscriptions, he had to use his own way of understanding to deduce the entire formation. Mu Yu stretched his hand forward. Those white inscriptions didn't obstruct him. Instead, they allowed him to enter directly. But just as he went around the stone pillars, the palace in front of him suddenly disappeared. Instead, it turned into a vast ocean. Mu Yu's entire body was already standing in midair. Densely packed cultivators were all around him. There were countless of them, and they were confronting a large group of demon race clansmen below. Mu Yu was shocked. He looked at these figures vigilantly, but whether it was cultivators or demon race clansmen, none of them seemed to have discovered Mu Yu, who had suddenly appeared in the middle of the battlefield. Only then did Mu Yu realize that what was in front of him was an illusion formation. Demon race and human race? This is an ancient battlefield from several thousand years ago. Mu Yu was shocked. Several thousand years ago, in order to defeat the Demon King, the human race led the cultivators to charge into the territory of the Sea Demon King, Yujiang. They engaged in a desperate battle with the Sea Demon King. Both the human race and the demon race were extremely valiant races. There was no need to think about it to know how tragic this battle was. And right before his eyes was the scene of the great battle between the human race and the demon race. Beside Mu Yu stood a white-clothed old man with fluttering hair and beard. Even though he knew that this was an image from 5,000 years ago, Mu Yu could still feel a godlike majesty from this white-clothed old man. Standing there, it was as if he had formed a world of his own, and all living things in the world were gathered around him. Mu Yu even suspected that this white-clothed old man in front of him could cause a huge change in the wind and clouds with a wave of his hand, toppling mountains and overturning seas. Is this Taoist master Xianjizi? Mu Yu was extremely shocked. Back then, when they attacked the Sea Demon King, Yu Jiang, the one who led the human race to battle was this Taoist master Xianjizi. At this moment, he was accompanied by Helian Kong, Gui Shizi, Bo Hong, and Mu Mengfei, for tribulation passing stage experts. These four people's expressions were extremely solemn as they vigilantly looked at the middle-aged man who was walking on the waves below. Sea Demon King, Yu Jiang. Mu Yu had never seen the Sea Demon King before, but he definitely wouldn't have mistaken him for someone else. This was because the Sea Demon King's aura was like the sun at noon, and it was as if it could cause the entire ocean to circulate. This was a middle-aged man with sword-like eyebrows and a square face. He was wearing a green robe, and he stood there like a Confucian scholar. However, the domineering aura emitted from his every movement was something that couldn't be underestimated. The waves beneath his feet surged for 1,000 miles, and they had already taken on a different form. They emitted a blue radiance, and they were sparkling and translucent like sapphires. Xianjizi, did you human race really go back on your word? The Sea Demon King asked coldly. His voice was like a muffled thunderclap, and it reverberated in everyone's ears, causing them to feel uneasy. Taoist Master Xianjizi said calmly, "It's you demon race that crossed the line. You should know what the consequences of doing so are." Taoist Master Xianjizi's voice wasn't loud, but it was clearly transmitted into everyone's ears. His imposing aura wasn't the slightest bit inferior to the Sea Demon King's. You human race don't want to resist, but you won't allow us demon race to resist. The Sea Demon King's face revealed boundless anger. A trace of determination appeared in Taoist Master Xianjizi's eyes, as if he was deeply afraid of something. He shouted, "Could it be that you still haven't learned your lesson from the changes in the second heaven?" White Ape's actions led to the destruction of the entire second heaven. We can't allow you to bring destruction to the third heaven. Enough nonsense. At the very least, we don't want to live in ignorance for the rest of our lives. Since you want to interfere with our way of doing things, then we have nothing to discuss. The Sea Demon King waved his hand, and all kinds of demon race members jumped out of the seawater. Killer whales, white sharks, octopuses. Every demon beast transformed into a powerful physique, and they madly shouted as they charged towards the cultivators. Taoist Master Xianjizi also waved his hand, and all of the cultivators roared loudly as they raised the magic treasures in their hands, and they charged down without fear of death. Multicolored light filled the sky, and the waves surged to the heavens. The battle between the cultivators and the demon race members was extremely bitter, and the air was filled with an endless stench of blood. A terrifying battle had already begun, and blood splashed everywhere. Severed limbs and minced meat floated on the surface of the sea, dyeing the entire sea red. However, Taoist Master Xianjizi and the Sea Demon King, who were in the center of the battlefield, were towering and unmoving. They stared fixedly at each other, and the imposing aura on their bodies continuously rose. The air seemed to have become fidgety, and the seawater within a radius of 100 miles stopped flowing. Chapter 635. There were originally several white clouds floating in the sky, but when the white clouds drifted to this region, they were suddenly scattered by a surging aura. The Sea Goblin King Yuzhang's powerful aura soared into the sky, and the waves soared into the sky. They turned into many thick water pillars that surged toward Xianjizi. Controlling water wasn't an ability unique to Shui Yameng, and the sea goblins that lived in the sea more or less knew how to control water, let alone the Sea Goblin King Yuzhang. These water pillars contained a majestic aura, and every splash seemed like a sharp blade. They trembled in the air and turned toward Xianjizi from all kinds of tricky angles. Xianjizi just waved his hand, and a majestic formation pattern rippled out from his body. The formation pattern surged forward, and it seemed like a transparent barrier suddenly opened. With him as the center, it turned the whole domain around him into his own. This powerful force was the formation domain. All methods returned to origin. Xianjizi suddenly shouted, and the formation pattern rippled in the whole domain. It rose and fell, and engulfed all of the water pillars that surged toward him. The water pillars were shaken off by the rippling formation pattern, and the Sea Goblin King's demonic power within them turned into the most primitive water droplets that scattered. They instantly turned into a vast ocean, and a curtain of water that covered the sky poured down from the sky. Xianjizi's formation domain made everything return to its origin, and it couldn't be forcefully changed. The Sea Demon King took a step forward, and a white ruler appeared in his hand. The white ruler instantly became 10,000 feet long, and a vigorous might swept out from it. It actually forcefully created a hole in Reverend Xianjizi's formation technique domain. Xianjizi moved his hand, and the formation pattern turned into a sky full of flying feathers, and they carried a terrifying destructive power as they bombarded the Sea Goblin King. Those flying feathers were as thin as hair, but they seemed to shatter the void, and they left behind a sharp whistling sound in the air. Sea Calming Thousand Ruler, my master rises and falls. The Sea Goblin King shouted in a deep voice, and a blue demonic power spread out from the Sea Calming Thousand Ruler. The air seemed to become viscous, and the void around the Sea Goblin King became like the water in the deep sea. Xianjizi's sky, full of flying feathers bombarded, but it seemed like they shot into the sea, and the sea's powerful resistance completely blocked the power of the feathers. Sea Demon King Yuzhang's domain. My lord rises and falls, creating a deep sea current in the surroundings. All the sharp weapons attacking him would be neutralized by the strong resistance of the seawater and would be turned to break all methods. It was a powerful defensive domain, which was very advantageous in battle. The two powerful domains collided with each other, sealing off the entire sea within a radius of several hundred miles. The seawater evaporated, revealing deep trenches at the bottom of the sea. Their majestic auras actually separated the seawater, preventing it from condensing back together. Muyu stood at the side and observed the battle between Reverend Xianjizi and the Sea Demon King Yuzhang. The two supreme beings fought in the air, and the power of their domains was like a mighty mountain pressing down on Muyu's heart, making him seem so petty. Taoist Master Xianjizi and the Sea Demon King Yuzhang were both very powerful existences. Their cultivation had already reached the pinnacle of perfection, and they stood at the pinnacle of the cultivation world. Although the battle 5,000 years ago was only an image, it allowed Muyu to enter its realm. Every single ripple produced by the exchange of blows shook Muyu's mind. I've always thought that the younger generation should know about this battle. After all, this is a conflict between the demon race and the human race. The humans here fought to the death for the sake of this world, so they shouldn't be so obscure. A voice full of vicissitudes sounded in Muyu's ears. Muyu was slightly startled. He turned his head, only to discover that Reverend Xian Jizi had been standing beside him since who knew when. You are the first cultivator to come here in 5,000 years. Reverend Xian Jizi looked at Mu Yu indifferently. Senior, Mu Yu looked at Reverend Xian Jizi in bewilderment. The Reverend Xian Jizi in front of him was so real. He stood there, forming a world of his own. This is a remnant of my consciousness sealed within this formation. You don't need to think too much about it. As if to dispel Mu Yu's doubts, Reverend Xian Jizi replied, sealing one's own consciousness within a formation was a heaven-defying ability. Even as the head of the formation glyph school, Mu Yu didn't dare say that he could do this. You have a lot of doubts. Tell me. Reverend Xian Jizi waved his hand. The formation veins in front of him surged, and all the images disappeared. Mu Yu once again stood on solid ground. Behind him were the tall stone pillars. Mu Yu did indeed have a lot of doubts, but he didn't know where to start. He sorted out his thoughts and first introduced himself. Senior, this one is Mu Yu. Please don't take offense at my intrusion. Reverend Xian Jizi sized up Mu Yu and nodded lightly. You possess the primordial yin and yang. It seems that the formation glyph school has finally resolved their differences, and only one person can be the head of the school. Mu Yu blushed with shame. He didn't know how to explain this. The current formation glyph school was no longer the same as before. It was no longer as prosperous as before. Mu Yu was able to become the head of the formation glyph school by chance. Senior, you said that the humans on the island died in battle for this world. I don't understand one thing. Why must humans and demons fight? What unforgivable thing did the Demon King do to make you pay such a huge price to seal him? Mu Yu asked, confused. Reverend Xian Jizi was silent for a moment. Then he sighed. In order for this world to not repeat its mistakes, the destruction of the second layer of heaven was a lesson. Why was the second layer of heaven destroyed? Mu Yu still didn't understand. He had been to the second layer of heaven before. It was a barren wasteland. Only powerful demons roamed freely. Whether it was humans, demons, or Yaman, they had all been wiped out. The earth Yaman that Mu Yu had seen in the second layer of heaven was actually moved there from the third layer of heaven in order to use the boundless spiritual chi of the second layer of heaven to quickly recover. The second layer of heaven was once said to be dominated by demons. The human territory was relatively smaller. However, later on, it seemed to have been cleansed by some terrifying thing. All the races were wiped out, and only demons remained. Reverend Xian Jizi said, the demons destroyed the balance of the second layer of heaven and crossed the bottom line of some powerful existences. As a result, they paid the price in blood. Mu Yu was shocked. Who has such a powerful ability to be able to wipe out the entire second layer of heaven? Reverend Xian Jizi didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stared blankly at the Sea Demon King's palace in the distance, as if he was recalling some past events. A trace of melancholy appeared in his weather-beaten eyes. This world is never as simple as it seems. We just have to be ourselves, Reverend Xian Jizi said slowly, as if he didn't want to tell the truth. Then why did you tell Senior Hellion Kong that the Demon King had to be born? Mu Yu didn't ask any further. Most of the time, knowing too much would only add to one's troubles. The Demon King is born so that the balance of this world won't be broken, Reverend Xian Jizi said. Mu Yu still couldn't understand. Reverend Xian Jizi didn't intend to explain in detail. He continued, I recorded this battle in hopes that the cultivation world won't forget the heroic souls on this island. They died in battle for the sake of this world, but they couldn't leave this island. I hope that the younger generation will remember their contributions. Senior, we juniors don't know why the conflict between humans and demons broke out in the first place. No matter how desperate the battle was on this island, no one would remember it. This video alone can't prove anything, Mu Yu said sincerely. If it weren't for the people from the Gate of Hell racking their brains to come to this island, the cultivation world would have long forgotten about the existence of these souls. Reverend Xian Jizi was silent. After a long time, he said, the power to enter the Yao Ceiling Pagoda has been sealed in this palace by me. If you want to enter the Yao Ceiling Pagoda and break the shackles of this island, you must obtain my approval. Since you're the sect master of the Formation Glyph sect, I'll remind you of something. Don't be disloyal. Reverend Xian Jizi's figure turned into ripples and gradually dissipated. At this moment, a layer of white fog once again enveloped the surroundings, covering the Sea Demon King's palace. Only a blurry outline could be seen. Don't be disloyal? Don't be disloyal? What does that mean? Muyu pondered this sentence in confusion. However, he didn't understand the meaning of this plan at all. Muyu was still thinking about this sentence when he suddenly sensed danger approaching. He tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and scattered. At the same time, a majestic ghost aura exploded where Muyu had just been standing. Gue Shiren actually walked out of Muyu's place of opportunity. Boy, your reaction is quite fast. Gue Shiren's expression was very unsightly. Anyone who was trapped in the mirror image array would be endlessly annoyed. This was because no matter how they walked, they were still going in circles. After entering Muyu's place of opportunity, Gue Shiren had been constantly scheming against Muyu. He had been dealing with Muyu and knew Muyu's whereabouts like the back of his hand. However, in the end, Muyu was one step ahead and made a fool of him. If it wasn't for the soul tool that Gue Shiren gave him, Gue Shiren might not have been able to walk out of Muyu's mirror image array. The corner of Muyu's mouth curled up. The speed at which you came out is a bit disappointing. I originally had higher expectations for you. The mirror image array was very ingenious. However, Muyu didn't expect this array to be able to trap Gue Shiren for long. After Muyu left the place of opportunity, Gue Shiren would actually be able to see through his flaws. This was because the soul tool in Gue Shiren's hand had always been pointing towards Muyu's direction. When Muyu left the place of opportunity, the direction of the soul tool would change. As long as Gue Shiren speculated a little, he would be able to know where Muyu was at the moment. He would also know that jumping off the iron chain bridge was actually the way out of the place of opportunity. Originally, I thought that keeping your life might be useful. However, since we're already here, then I don't need you anymore. The blood-red long axe appeared in Gue Shiren's hand once again. The long axe emitted a pungent smell of blood. At the same time, 6 ghost shadows appeared around him. They were his 6 twins. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.